Tuesday, December 17th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Glad you're with us. A lot to get to because we know portal season stays busy. Yesterday, had a long conversation about Jackson Arnold, Oklahoma quarterback, committing to Auburn. Now we have another quarterback that's committed to Auburn. We'll get to that across the course of the show today. Talk a little bit of college football playoff as it is game week. First one comes Friday night. Bowl games begin back up again tonight. Had 2 Monday night football games last night. Andy Birch will be with us, only guest today, so you have a chance to be a part of the show. 800-239-9569. Text in 205-834-9450. Before we get to the portal gets for Auburn, GMAC, a lot of folks are beginning to get a little bit uneasy about what's happening with Alabama in the portal. Quarterback Jalen Mbakwe expected in the portal, according to Matt Zenitz. Wide receiver Emmanuel Henderson expected to hit the portal as well. And then you get four-star defensive lineman Vodney Cleveland, who decommitted yesterday. Is there a reason for concern for Alabama fans right now?
Yeah, I mean, people are spending an outrageous amount of money to go and get guys off the roster. Mbakwe, for example, getting paid an exorbitant amount of money, and he was really not super productive last year. He actually didn't have a great year. Got torched and was a huge liability in coverage. And people are paying him a big check to go play for their school. I mean, there was tampering. I think there was a lot of stuff going on with that. I mean, I'm not saying that anyone else is immune to it, but I think Alabama just acknowledged, yeah, probably not worth the money. And then the wide receiver situation. Now, all the guys that underperformed last year, it's like now everybody wants to keep these guys. Like, hang on a second. These guys weren't any good last year, according to a lot of the fan base, and they didn't necessarily deserve a lot of looks, according to a lot of the fan base. And now they're starting to go elsewhere. You feel like the sky is falling. I wouldn't panic just yet. A lot of time, plenty of money in the NIL. It just seems like the collective has decided to make sure that they attack guys that they think are really good, and not overspend on guys that weren't great last year, regardless of how many stars they had coming out of high school.
So how much of this, too, is just maybe guys that are realizing a little bit of both sides, that it's just not a fit, it's not going to work out, not going to be productive in that offense? Like Emmanuel Henderson, for example. You and I have had Coach Saban was telling me about him when he first got to campus, that he was a little bit light, but he was maybe the fastest player on the team. They wanted to try to use him in different ways. I heard some of the same things from this staff, maybe not gushing the way that Saban did when he first saw him. But is it just essentially not the right fit and not a system where he's going to be able to get the opportunities? And so it's not a massive loss for Alabama, and it's probably better for him. How many situations like that are we dealing with on the capstone?
You know, I think it's hard to know exactly how many. I do think that Emmanuel Henderson's a good football player. I think that the last staff recruited a lot of guys that are good football players. Kendrick Law would fall under that umbrella. I just don't think he's a great receiver. He's more of a catch and run, getting the ball in his hands type of guy. He's a gadget player. And there's a bunch of guys that were recruited by the previous staff to do that. They clearly wanted to get as many good football players as you can get, and we'll find a place for them. I think there's a lot of guys that they might have overlooked from a refinement standpoint, in an effort to just say, you know what, we just need to take the best guys. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's just a different philosophy when it comes to going after and attracting certain players. Stockpile as many good players, and then this staff views things more of all right, this is a role. I need you to play this specific role. I need a 6'4" X receiver that is excellent when it comes to possession and back shoulders. I need a Z that can take the top off the defense, that can really do a great job of stemming his routes vertically, getting behind the defense, etc. I need a super quick slot receiver that's great with the ball in his hands from a jet sweep standpoint, but I really need him to be a great option route runner. As a tight end, I want one guy that's a hammer, that's a blocker on the end man of the line of scrimmage. Then I need one guy that can stretch the field vertically. Then I need one guy that's really good on the option underneath stuff opposite the slot receiver. At running back, I want a power running back downhill. Then I need a guy that's shifty. And then I need a first and second down starter. So you think about it, like Justice Haynes and Jam Miller were kind of the same guy. They ended up giving Jam Miller a lot more run because What's the point in giving it to your second best back when your best back's doing perfectly fine and not being overloaded? They might want to take Justice Haynes out and find a guy that's more of a power between the tackles, ball carrier for short yardage specialty situations. There wasn't a Rome Odunze on this roster last year, but they do have a Z in Ryan Williams. So now I think they're probably going to go out and find a big body X wide receiver that's really good on contested catch and vertical and back shoulder situations. I think they have a slot guy in Cole Adams that can be that guy, but they probably need a little bit more. So I think that they really recruit more to a certain style, a more professional NFL style than they do hey, let's find a bunch of guys that are interchangeable that all kind of do the same thing, but they're all difficult to defend. You know what I'm saying?
If you took that mindset that you just described with the receivers and took into account fit, skill set, maybe even depth and just overall happiness, how would you explain it the same way with what you said, adding with what you said about Justice Haynes yesterday, from an ability and from a type of player? Because I agree with what you said, and I don't think a lot of people will quite understand this. I used to do this with quarterbacks a lot, and I would try to explain to people he's a better athlete than he is a quarterback. But I think what you're saying with Kendrick Law is 100% spot on, but I don't know if everybody will actually get that. It's just he doesn't do the natural wide receiver things as well as the top wide receivers, but he does some other things that are fantastic. It's just it doesn't necessarily make him the best wide receiver that you need on your team to convert first downs and to be able to make explosive plays. But from a Justice Haynes perspective, how would you describe that one just from the football sense of maybe why not him being on the roster, off the roster is or is not a big deal?
Well, the reason why he's not on the roster is because at one point in his career, he was the highest paid player on the team. So it would be like having your running back making more than your quarterback. And it's like, hang on a second, that doesn't make sense. At one point in his career, he was the highest paid player on the team. Higher than Will Anderson, higher than others. So that creates a little bit of a false sense of reality when he was making a ton of money and had tons of benefits and all this other stuff. And now he's a secondary back. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pay the secondary back twice as much as what I pay the starter back. I'm just not.
What do you think his career high attempts in a game is?
13.
13 against South Florida. It's the only time he's had double-digit carries in a game.
It doesn't mean he's not a good player. It doesn't mean the staff wouldn't like to keep him. But at what cost? I mean, sometimes you have to let good people walk. I mean, the Yankees didn't love seeing Soto walk out the door, but man alive, $51 million a year. I don't know if I can justify that.
735 is a different deal.
Exactly. I mean, it's like I'm all for it. I get it. I mean, if everyone spent like the Dodgers, then fine. But guess what? At Alabama,
you got a World Series, though, Greg.
At Alabama, you don't have unlimited resources. Like, you have to be smart with where you go with things, and paying guys an exorbitant amount of money that aren't going to see the field can cause a lot of friction, a lot of fracturing, and a lot of friction in the locker room. Hang on, this guy's making more than me, but I'm the starter and he's the backup. How does that make sense? Like, so Jalen Mbakwe is going to be making more than Xavier Brown, but Xavier Brown's the starter and Mbakwe's the backup. How does that make sense? It doesn't. It's bad business in the locker room. And it creates problems and resentment. So I think there's a lot of things in play here, and I know people are probably panicking. I'm not suggesting you should be excited about guys walking out the door, but it's the nature of the business when guys were recruited to run a certain system, and that system is no longer in place.
What do you think the personnel held back from the system last year? We talked a lot about it going in and presented what it had been, not just at Washington with Mike Penix, because I think a lot of people looked at that and said, okay, this is what it has to be. But Coach DeBoer and Nick Sheridan both had sort of morphed the offense in different years to do different things. We actually saw Penix year 1, year 2 be different because all of a sudden you had Dylan Johnson, who could be a hammer, and there was a little bit more of the downhill run game. It wasn't as much of that the previous year. We've seen Jake Haener be able to handle different parts of it and actually have a little bit more mobility than Michael Penix does. And you used him outside the pocket a little more and maybe had a couple more design quarterback runs other than Texas. when in Washington, Ryan Grubb basically said because of how they were playing us, we had to have those. So we called them. We always carry them. We just don't use them much. What do you think this offense lacked that they wanted to do last year, but because of personnel couldn't get to as much?
I think they want to have a traditional drop back passing attack that takes a lot of shots downfield, and they don't have the receivers for that outside of Ryan Williams. Kendrick Law is a catch and run guy. Like, look at Georgia, and look at their offense. It's all get it to Dominic Lovett, catch and run, get it to Arian Smith, catch and run. Like, think about that. I think that's what Alabama wanted to be, because guess the team that they were playing against on a regular basis for the national championship or for the highest percentages of the championship games they played in, Georgia, in the last few years. So it's a copycat world. Oh, Georgia's great with the catch and run. Man, we want that. So let's go get the guys that are best with the ball in their hands. Yeah, can't run a route to save a life, but get on the ball in space and let's see what happens with it. I think that there was some admiration for where that offense was going. The difference is there was a Ladd McConkey and a Brock Bowers at Georgia, and there wasn't that at Alabama. I think that is something that was desperately missing in this past year's offense. It's that they don't have a real trustworthy big body go and catch the ball type of X or Z receiver. Doesn't mean the guys they had weren't solid football players, tremendous football players. If you want to go play, 7-on-7, or you want to go play, just open field offense all the time, that's awesome. But that's not what these guys did well. And I think people don't understand. I do think that there is a real misconception with a lot of folks when it comes to evaluating wide receivers. And guess what? You're not alone. NFL teams do it all the time. There's a reason why Darius Hayward-Bay was drafted in the first round, because all anyone thinks about when it comes to wide receivers are they fast and can they catch?
What else do they do? What else do they need?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think there's a reason why Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Williams, there's a reason why Keenan Allen's been playing for 15 years. There's a lot more to playing that position that people have no clue what they're looking at. Is Jamar Chase the fastest wide receiver in the league? No. Are these guys, is Justin Jefferson? No. No, because these guys are crafty. They know how to attack leverage. They have natural instincts when the ball is in the air of when to jump, how high to jump, and how to contort their body to make the play. The biggest, fastest, strongest receivers aren't always the best receivers. If it was all about speed, then why wouldn't the entire U.S. 4x1 track team all play in the NFL? Because it's not all about that. If it were all about, making guys miss, then why wouldn't every running back in the league double as a wide receiver? Because there's specialization that is learned and is nuanced and has to be understood. And I don't think the common fan understands that. And that's okay. You're not expected to, because most NFL teams in some cases don't understand that. But coaches do. Coaches know, hey, this guy, he knows how to get open. This guy knows how to time his jump perfectly and turn his body at the last second so that you can't cover him on a back shoulder throw. Hey, this is a guy that understands zone and will sit it down in zones when he feels it. This is a guy that knows how to create natural picks and knows how to run right through defenders for his opposing wide receivers without making it look like it's an obvious pick. There are certain nuance to that position that is next level. Running a 4.3 doesn't make you a good receiver. And I just don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it. And then there's no doubt I've told stories about track guys who tried to come out and play for us, and fastest guys on campus, some of the fastest guys in the world, it just didn't work. And there's different reasons for it. So, and that goes for every position. It's interesting. So Alabama, a couple guys in the portal. GMAC gives you a good explanation there of why it might not be the sky is falling like some people are describing. Auburn has a new quarterback commit. And no, it's not Jackson Arnold. We discussed that one yesterday. We'll hit you up with what it is on the other side, who it is, where they're from, and what they're capable of. But don't get caught in the cold. Schedule your system checkup now from a Trane Comfort specialist. Trane has been recognized 10 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand. Our exclusive home comfort partners here at Jocks. Visit Trane.com to find a comfort specialist near you. Remember, it's hard to stop a Trane. More portal news and a discussion about Auburn's new quarterbacks, plural, next on Mac and Cube in the morning. $7:19, Tuesday, December 17th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com. Watch live on YouTube every morning. Search JOX, and you can watch the show right there on YouTube. College football playoff starts Friday night. We got time to get into that game. We'll do it across the course of the show today, really every day leading in. We'll have more on that game as McElroy is going to be on the call. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in on the Buyers Right hotline, where we would like to hear your thoughts on what Auburn is doing with their quarterback situation through the transfer portal. We told you yesterday Jackson Arnold was in, an elite talent that had been brought in, that had played a lot during this season, started a lot during this season for Oklahoma, but also came with some issues and some things that he has done in game that could be, will be, might be problematic. Now, another quarterback whose name had been associated with Auburn has committed as well, and that is Stanford quarterback Ashton Daniels. On the surface, the numbers will not wow people. 62% completed, 1,700 yards, 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Did run for another 669 and 3 touchdowns, over 4.5 per carry. People are going to look at the interceptions, Greg, and say, yeah, this isn't one that's going to work, or this, why are you bringing this guy in? 6'2", 215. He is from Beaufort, Georgia, wanting to get closer to home. Just your immediate thoughts of Hugh Freeze and Auburn bringing in Ashton Daniels as one of their potential quarterbacks for this fall.
I don't have any problems with it whatsoever. I know a lot of people are like, why? I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense. Insurance. I mean, why do you have the umbrella policy? I mean, and maybe, and you tell me, what was it that Jackson Arnold did really well down the stretch last year?
He ran the ball.
Yeah. And when you run the ball with your quarterback, it opens you up to possibility of taking some hits, right? I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. Hey, let's be smart here. Let's go get a guy that has Power 5 starting experience, and at times this year looked pretty dang competent. And he only really had one weapon at Stanford. I'm sure, assuming that he's from Stanford, probably a really smart guy. Can probably put a lot on his plate. And I think it's a win-win. I don't think you can lose in this situation. It's just an odd, and I think it's also a benefit to actually get a guy with starting Power 5 experience to come in and potentially be the backup. You go into a situation where you need two, you're going to be pretty forthright in saying, hey, yeah, we're taking two this year, guys. So one of you will start, one of you will be the backup. To find a guy that was willing to do that with Power 5 starting experience, probably not the easiest thing in the world.
No, I would agree. And I think when I was watching him yesterday, spent a lot of time on him, basically because he had committed to Auburn and just kind of wanted to see what they were working with. Interested to get your thoughts on this, if you're kind of on the same page. If Auburn fans watched Arkansas this year, I would say think Taylon Green. Maybe not as long, but is a long strider, a similar style runner, and he was asked to do a lot in the run game. They had direct north-south quarterback runs, quarterback power, quarterback inside zone. He ran some option, both zone read and just some flat line option where he would run down the line of scrimmage and then pitch off the end man of the line of scrimmage. So he was asked to do a lot in the run game, which I think is something that it's pretty apparent where Auburn has gone. They're putting a premium on that. They want to be able to have that. And Peyton Thorne showed a little bit last year when he was in. His mobility helped, and he didn't have elite mobility, but he had good mobility, enough to be dangerous and break you down. The arm angle is going to be a little bit lower than normal. He's got a little Uncle Rico at his delivery, but he's got a strong arm. He's got a good arm. A lot of quick game stuff with Stanford. And goodness, Stanford not afraid to formation you, Greg, this last year.
No.
And it wasn't because of their record, a team that I paid a ton of attention to, but they threw some stuff out that I don't think I've ever seen in the couple games that I watched, but not that it was a massive assistance to them winning football games this year. But
wow.
I think he's got some ability. He comes across as a little bit raw, not necessarily polished. I wish they would let him done a little bit more down the field. I feel like it was a lot just, hey, get the ball out and a lot of the intermediate stuff. But athletically, he's got the tools. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And my immediate comp was Taylon Green, just kind of watching the way that he operated, moved around, kind of his delivery a little bit similar, long strider, not a thicker kid in the lower body. But that was kind of the comp that came to mind for me.
I don't think he runs it anywhere near as well as Taylon Green. I don't disagree with the long stride, but there's not as much wiggle with Ashton. And that's okay. Taylon Green's a freak show. Like, I don't think there's anything to feel bad about there. He is a complete stud. So I do think that there is a lot to like about where things are. But I don't know about you, man. Like, are you pretty confident in the ability to kind of thrust him in the lineup and run RPO downfield throws? Because I know I can do that with Jackson Arnold. So I know what the offense is going to look like. Here's my assumption. I know what Jackson Arnold is as a starting quarterback. I just don't feel like Ashton Stamps. Where do I know that name from? Oh, he's a corner for LSU. Ashton Daniels. You also have Ashton Craig, center, Notre Dame. Let's look at that. 3 Ashtons all in one.
Also, Kuchar,
I don't feel
actor.
Ooh, similar. Who does he play for? Tennessee?
Iowa, surprisingly. At least he did.
Iowa?
Oh, he was there.
Wow.
Also,
Probably
Chinty, Heisman runner-up, running back.
Oh, that
Ooh,
guy.
I
Yeah.
knew there's another. There you go. Name that Ashton. Rank your Ashtons next on Mac and Cube.
Top 3. Already got it.
Looking at what they do though, I don't think their skill set's very similar. That's the only thing that I'm curious about, because I think that Ashton is a little bit different from an underneath throw perspective, and I think this is not based on what he was last year, based on what he wants to be. I think when you look at some of the high school development stuff and you look at what Jackson Arnold was early in his career, he wants to be a deep ball passer. He wants to be a Dylan Gabriel. He wants to take the top off. He wants to be a guy that's aggressive, that keeps his pedal pressed, but is a little more willing than Gabriel to pound it between the tackles. Like, he wants to push it downfield. And I will be really interested how that's going to work out in the event in which one has to play or maybe one misses a start because of a spot start. You have a strained calf and then the guy has to go in. How will that work out for him? You know, that's, I think, something I'm real curious about.
Ashton Turner, cricketer.
Who?
Ashton Turner, cricketer.
Boom, man.
Ashton Eaton, retired American decathlete, 2-time Olympic champion.
Okay, there we go. That's another.
That's all I got.
Any more?
No, that's it.
More than the 2 we thought.
A lot of TikTok and YouTube people that nobody's heard of on this show, except maybe
You have a
Damien.
TikTok.
But I hadn't been to it in a while. See what's going on over
Yes.
there. Maybe in the break, we'll go over there and see what's going on over there.
Check in.
Check out
Make sure everything's
the newest dance
on the
crazes
up
on
and
the
up.
talk. Yeah. I bet they got a lot of good stuff about drones on there right now. We'll go check
Whoa.
that out. See how that's going.
Don't get too
Really
far in
good.
the weeds, pal. In all seriousness, do you feel like those two have similar skill sets?
Yeah, I think it's a fair comp. But I think too, I agree with you. I think Jackson Arnold is a little more quick twitch. So the RPO game feels like he would be a little better suited for. I think he's just straight line speed faster. Can make a decision to pull it and go a little bit quicker.
Talking about Jackson.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. I think Jackson has faster hands. I think Jackson, look, one's a starter, one's a backup. I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, I wouldn't expect Ashton Daniels to do all the things that Jackson Arnold can do. I think Jackson Arnold's hands are really good. Very, very good hands. I think he's going to excel in the RPO. I think he's going to make good decisions. I really believe that. I think this offense does lend itself to turning the ball over. There's no denying that. If you look at Hugh Freeze's numbers over the course of time, over the last 10 years, and everywhere he's been, even at Liberty, at Ole Miss, and at Auburn, turnovers are part of the equation. That's because you're required to make last-second decisions, and it's hard. It puts a lot on the quarterback. But I'm still super optimistic about Jackson Arnold in this fit because it's a lot of post-snap decision-making. It's more be a baller type of decision-making. I know that's very scientific. Be a baller decision-making means find a linebacker, read him, and go. I think sometimes if you're too smart, that can hurt you in this offense because you have a tendency to overanalyze. And I think Peyton Thorne at times was a little too smart in this offense and would overanalyze things, which caused confusion. There's gray area in this offense. So that's the other thing. If you're a really, really smart guy, you can't be a guy that overanalyzes because if you overanalyze in this system, you got problems. Think about the guys that have run it successfully.
Oh boy, don't do that. We'll just
saying.
We'll stop right there.
You get where I'm going to. I didn't say anything. You're the one jumping to conclusions.
It's actually a very fair point.
You're the one jumping to conclusions.
I do think
I'm not.
that,
I didn't say anything.
I do think that part of that is very applicable with Thorne, as you brought up and as you mentioned. And I
really
think,
smart.
I think Jackson Arnold fits that bill also, but it's where does that play into actually getting rid of the football, like pulling the trigger, letting it go? Because if you're going to be a baller, you got to throw the football. And that's where I thought one of his biggest issues was this past year.
I don't disagree. I'm actually very optimistic about, super optimistic about Jackson Arnold in this offense. I really am. And I do think that it's going to be very smart for him. He's going to have to be very smart when it comes to the hits he takes. because you do not get a Purple Heart at the end of the season for taking a bunch of hits. Like, it's not necessary. I do really respect how he plays. He's a Texas kid. Ball is clearly important to him. It's part of our culture in Texas, just like it is here in Alabama. So I think that's a natural fit. But there is a part of me that is a little bit concerned about, him maybe taking a little bit too much on in the run game. That is not that's what he had to do last year, because that was the only way they could win, because they had no wideouts. That does not need to be the approach at Auburn. Distribute, be smart, is an offense that's designed to distribute, and don't take the unnecessary risk with your body.
It all makes sense, and it's all applicable to what we might see at Auburn next year. Your thoughts on the Auburn quarterback situation? Tweet it at Mac and Cube, where it is now. You have more confidence now heading into the season, maybe than you did this time a year ago. Less confidence. How do you feel about it? Because I think with what we've described in both these quarterbacks, we know there's going to have to be some coaching to get these guys ready to go and to get these guys winning football games down at Auburn this year. Some other news coming out of Auburn. We'll get to that on the other side. They have other players in the portal. We'll discuss those. Continue to get your thoughts. But first, G-Mac, tell our listeners about B-Dry.
B-Dry has been serving Alabama and customers in this community for more than 60 years. I tell you, man, I've had a great experience with B-Dry, and I know you guys will feel the exact same way. We have a basement, have had no issues. B-Dry is the largest waterproofing company in the country, and they're the only company that stops all 5 ways that water can enter your foundation. Call them today, get them out, get things taken care of. Don't have to pay $1 for next 12 months. 0% interest, 12 months, interest-free. You can get the job done and still have cash on hand for some holiday fun. Call them today. It's bdryalabama.com, or you can call them at 942-1976. That's 942-1976, or go to bdryalabama.com.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk more transfer portal. We have more quarterbacks in. Need to get to those. We'll do it right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. Tuesday, December 17th, 7:35 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. Top 3 coming up next. We'll recap last night's Monday Night Football games, but talking college football now and talking quarterbacks. Some other good news that came out of Auburn, or is expected to come out of Auburn today. Max Olson reporting USC offensive lineman Mason Murphy is expected to transfer to Auburn.
That's a good pickup.
I would just say that I agree with that. So yeah, I would say that checks out. And a guy that's played a lot, started 22 games at both tackle spots, played a little bit of guard the last couple of years. Give you more on it when I go take a deeper look. I hadn't taken the deep dive yet, as I found out about that one late last night. So
I think he's well liked amongst personnel groups.
Okay. Meaning coaches, scouts.
Yes, I think he was highly coveted. So I trust people. I don't know how good he is, but I know that people wanted him. A couple different people.
We just randomly trust people?
I'm sorry, I have not had time to dive into the Mason Murph.
I just appreciated the line of "I trust people."
That's very optimistic. I kind of like that.
It does.
Yeah.
Yes,
I trust people.
New leaf in 25.
Just different deal. I trust people. So
getting a jump start. Okay,
there you go. Absolutely.
Week and a half out.
We ride.
But Auburn does lose edge defender, true freshman Amaris Williams to the transfer portal. A young man that showed a little bit of flash down the stretch that I know a lot of people there really liked. And that's a tough one because defensively, GMAC, you're already going to have some losses. And some of the youth that was on that defense that started to show up late last year, I know was going to be relied on.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I looked back through the notes on him. I didn't have a ton on him. And we just called their most recent game. So in the 5 games that I watched leading into that game, he did not pop as much as maybe I would have liked. I had some stuff on him, though, going into the Georgia game, which I found a little interesting. So did he start to dissipate down the stretch? What happened with that?
No, I just think he was a little bit of a backup and kind of got his playing time in spots. But he was number 10, and I can remember I liked his length. I like some of the things that he did. He got in late, played a lot versus La Monroe, and have showed some signs of being a good pass rusher, showed some heavy hands at the line of scrimmage. Just didn't play a ton, really. So I think he's somebody that they did like his potential, though, based on folks I talked to there. I know in fall camp that he was a problem with them dealing with the blocking. So you hate to see him go because he's a guy that probably could have turned into a pretty good player. But that's the story with a lot of college football right now. The development at one place is rare this day and age. And if you don't feel like you're getting what you need or want or deserve right away, most guys going to go look somewhere else. So that's going to be the case with Amaris Williams. What is your expectation now with what you know about the Auburn quarterback room compared to what it was a year ago?
I don't know a whole lot about some of the I'm not sure I could tell you a whole lot about what's beyond Daniels. Who else is there? Everyone else is gone, no?
Yeah, he and Jackson Arnold. I mean, when you're talking about, is that what you're referencing?
Yeah, those are the only 2, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's
who else is there? They have another freshman?
No, I'm just saying from a team perspective, now that it looks like the quarterback situation has been filled, what is your
better or worse than this year?
Expectation higher going into this year or last year going into last season?
I would say higher going into this year. And it's almost exclusively because I think that in the event in which Jackson Arnold goes down this year, God forbid, Ashton Daniels is capable. No disrespect to the guys that were buried on the roster last year. If anything happened to Peyton Thorne, it was game, set, match. And I know people don't want to hear that. And I know he looked great against whatever team it was that he started against. I honestly don't even remember. Nevada? Who would he play against? Doesn't matter. But in the event in which someone went down last year, they were dead. And now I think they can survive. So I think overall better situation. But I wouldn't say that I'm feeling as though Jackson Arnold is going to all of a sudden this year elevate to the top of the college football world. I think it's going to be a steady climb. He's probably a year away, maybe 2, from being back to feeling super confident with how he operates, because he lost a lot this year from a confidence standpoint. And it takes time to regenerate that. If we could regenerate feelings overnight, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. That's part of the part of the brain that it's easy to remember the shortcomings. I wish it wasn't, but it is. And I think it might take some time to get him out of that, but I'm super confident in his long-term prognosis as the guy at Auburn.
I know another thing you're confident in is Bromberg's and what they offer up to our listeners each and every day.
Always confident in Bromberg's. They do a great job. Very grateful to the type of service that they've provided me and my family. Always feel like Bromberg's is taking great care of us, especially this time of year. I need to run over there actually today at some point. It just there are not enough hours in the day. I got to get to Bromberg's. Go see my friends over there. They're really, really great. Always know with second I walk in the door, big smiles, handshakes, hugs in some cases. Just really appreciate how they make me feel like I'm at home when I'm buying something really important for our family. So go and check them out in the Mountain Brook Village store or the Summit, or you can always shop online at brombergs.com.
You heard it here first. Free hugs at Bromberg's. Just walk in the door.
Free hugs.
And
sometimes, not all the time. I don't know if that's for anybody,
Randomly.
not just anybody. I can't speak that everyone's going to get that when they walk in. I know I seemingly get one regularly. But then again, I'm a very loyal customer at Bromberg's.
And you trust people.
And I trust people. They should trust me. I feel pretty trustworthy.
They should trust me. I would agree. Yeah, absolutely. But listen, you promoted the hugs, not us. So just throwing that out there that they're going to be available and they're going to be
occasional.
Occasional
hugs. Depends on what time of year and depends on how things have gone in the store that day.
Well, the reason I asked you the question about Auburn is I feel like the overall talent in the room right now is better than it was last offseason at any point in time in the quarterback room. However, I feel like a lot of Auburn fans are not near as optimistic now as they were going into last season. And maybe more players being added, maybe going through spring, being able to see a couple guys. I don't know. And maybe we get there by the time that we're, sitting here next July talking about this team either before or after SEC Media Days saying, no, I feel great. No, it's going to be 8 or 9 wins, or it's going to be 7 or 8 wins, as opposed to, which we thought it was going to be 6 or 7 this year with maybe an outside chance at 8. So I'm interested in where Auburn fans are, because I don't feel like there are near as many, anywhere close to as optimistic now as they were a year ago. Some of that could have to do with in-game coaching. Some of that could have to do with other players being gone, not enough being added. I don't know. But I do know that the level of talent in the quarterback room is better right now than it was at any point last offseason. And it hasn't gotten people's optimism raised to a level that I guess I thought some would. Maybe they see, some of the inconsistent play of these two, some of the turnovers, but not 100% sure what that is. But I thought a lot more people would kind of be getting excited, trying to move along with it, and that just hasn't really happened yet. So that's why I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Who do you think they would have been happy with? Vince Young?
Yes, actually, after visiting with him at the SEC championship game and him saying he still has the desire to play, just because that's hard for him to watch football because he wants to play so bad. Yeah, I think we would take him. I think they would probably line him up. Even young Vince, for him too. We could get him a new ID somehow, get him going in there.
I think you can find some eligibility for him for sure. But I am honest question here. Who the heck would they have been happy with? Seriously, who? I mean,
there were some Auburn fans that were fixated on Malik Murphy.
Have they watched him?
No, Greg, they haven't.
Okay,
they've heard about it. They saw him in the Texas spring game 2 years ago. Saw the highlights, heard about him, heard about how loaded the quarterback room was, and thought, okay, this is going to be it.
We got to get him.
Let me ask Auburn fans that wanted Malik Murphy. Had you gotten Quinn Ewers, how would you feel?
I can't answer that because I don't know if anybody ever mentally put themselves in that spot.
Well, I'm just saying, if the quarterback room at Texas is so loaded, and yet I think Texas goes into this college football playoff with one notable, very inconsistent piece, who at times has looked great, but at times has been extremely human. That one piece being Quinn Ewers. And Malik Murphy couldn't come close to contending with him as the starting quarterback. What does that tell you?
No, and
I don't know. I don't know the answer to
what's
that.
the proven commodity out there this year that would have satisfied folks? I mean,
well, let me answer. I'll follow it. So you want the guy? Answer me this: you want the guy that couldn't beat out Quinn Ewers instead of the guy that forced Dylan Gabriel to move and transfer because Dylan Gabriel was probably not going to be the starter last year. Just wrap your head around that for a second now.
it's a thought.
And that's a little conspiratorial. It's worth noting though.
Thomas Castellanos, Devin Dampier, Michael Van Buren, Caden Salter. I mean, Miller Moss, I could see where some people maybe thought that was a good move. I don't even know if he's the best fit, but he's a good player. And maybe now with John Mateer in, that's the one that people would look at and say, I doubt a lot of people have grinded the tape on John Mateer at Washington State, but a good player. Maybe that was the one. Don't know. We'll run through some of those quarterbacks later in the show because I've got my daily, yes, it's now daily quarterback list of kids in the transfer portal and get Greg's thoughts on guys going in and guys that have ended up somewhere else. But before we get to that, it's the top three and then Andy Burcham on the other side of the hour. We'll start with the top three right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. 7:50 a.m. Tuesday, December 17th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Still a lot of transfer portal news to get to, and a lot of feedback coming in for you. We'll get to all of that here in just a few minutes. NFL last night, Vikings smashed the Bears 30-12. Bears are 4-10. Vikings 12-2 on the season. Sam Darnold 24-40, 231, a touchdown and a pick. Dallas Turner had a sack. Your total yardage 329 to 283. There were 19 flags in this game combined, by the way. Minnesota won their 7th straight last night over the Bears. Falcons over the Raiders. Bijan goes 22 carries, 125 yards. Kirk Cousins 11 of 17, 112 yards, touchdown and a pick. He gets the win the week after Damian called for him to be benched. Falcons 15-9. The Raiders are now 2-12. The Falcons are 7-7. Falcons outrushed the Raiders 168-65. So Bijan, a big reason why the Falcons able to get that win last night. Our top 3 usually focuses on the NFL on Tuesday. Damian, what do you have for us today?
We're going to start off with a little injury news. I hate to bring it up, but we did get a chance to see the Kansas City Chiefs win over the Cleveland Browns 21-7. But Patrick Mahomes down with a high ankle sprain. They're going to be pain tolerance, how much you can see if he can go for next week. But also Nick Chubb going out with a broken foot. I hate
to see that.
Oh, my gosh. I hate to see that. Nick Chubb, man, a guy that when he's on and when he's healthy, you cannot deny the talent that is Nick Chubb. But again, he's injured, and it doesn't look like he will be returning for the Cleveland Browns. Also in Detroit, in the high scoring matchup with the Buffalo Bills, 48-42 in a loss, David Montgomery, along with a host of other injuries for the Detroit Lions. But it seems like David Montgomery has a sprained MCL and will be out for the Detroit Lions for the rest of the season.
Do you have an update on TJ Watt? That's really all I care about.
Ankle sprain. You're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
They're optimistic he's going to play against Baltimore.
Okay.
Little soft, though, the way he went off, no? I mean, goodness gracious. Come on, man. It's an ankle. Let's go. You don't even need that as a pass rusher. I didn't know Watt brothers had ankles. You just go rip off the edge. Come on, man.
Ankless.
In all seriousness, watching it, I was like, golly, is that an Achilles? It was kind of scary.
It was. It looked really bad.
The way he grabbed it, it looked kind of nasty. I was like, golly. But glad to see it was just an ankle. But come on, man.
And how about Detroit and Minnesota? They have their final game of the season. Both of them vying for playoff spots, and it can determine seeding. If both teams win out and when they play each other, it could go from whoever wins that ball game will be the number 1 overall seed, or it could drop all the way to the 5th seed.
It's wild.
NFC North, man.
Well, it was wild, too, seeing Sunday night Green Bay and their schedule being 10-4 and the teams that they've lost to. I think I said the highest combined opponent win percentage in the last 50 years or something. So the teams that are having good years are having really good years. And there's very few average sort of in-between teams, it feels like, this year in the NFL.
That is true. And how about the Philadelphia Eagles? And sorry, Cole. They win their 10th straight game over the aforementioned Pittsburgh Steelers, 27-13. But it's still some dysfunction with that Philadelphia Eagles team, with Nick Sirianni, the head coach, having a few words with Jalen Carter there on the sidelines.
Guys get heated sometimes, and you got to put them in their place, I guess. Didn't feel like the best idea. Didn't feel like the rest of the staff appreciated it either. So
not at all.
Listen, Steelers still lead the division. Massive game with Baltimore this weekend. A must-have, in my opinion.
It is indeed.
I mean, not to mention the rest of that schedule after the Ravens, Chiefs, and the Bengals.
They're in the playoffs, okay?
No, I think they get the division.
Need a home game, though.
Might be limping on the way.
Need a home game. Well, it's not like the Bengals have been on fire.
Well, no, I mean,
they beat the Titans.
Take a nap at that point, but
well, they're 6-8, so it's all right. Just let Jamar Chase get his 300, and you're fine. You're good.
Yeah, should be. Joe Burrow was also frustrated on the sidelines because he felt like they should have beaten the Tennessee Titans a little bit more, by a little bit more.
I think America felt that way.
Competitor. I like it. I'm for it.
He's got it in him.
Yep.
They covered, though. That's what matters.
But also, just an honorable mention, Will Levis was also benched again.
That's not a top moment of the weekend. Why would we bring that up?
What's honorable about that?
There's nothing to be discussed there.
Seems like a recurring thing.
They're still playing?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Did y'all notice the jersey he wore yesterday?
Steve McNair.
Not the one that he bought this season.
No. Not at all. Sorry for having optimism.
You bought any Hellman's mayonnaise lately?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's only getting worse.
Okay.
But he said his ex-girlfriend was in the crowd, so maybe his mind just wasn't in it.
I'm sorry.
Had his heart broken.
That was
Had his heart
something that
broken.
was actually stated. Excuse
Out
me.
in public.
She was there. And how about
Why did that even come out? Why did that come up?
Yeah, how do we know this?
She made it known that she was going to be.
Okay,
But
well, he didn't
He
make it
addressed
known.
it though.
No. He did.
Oh, okay. That would have been
But
very different.
that added to the poor performance. He was under a lot of pressure.
That's what it was. That's why
That's
he's
a
been
gobble.
fumbling all year.
His
Okay.
mind ain't in it.
He fumbled her. Okay. All right.
More mayo.
Mm.
All right, that's our NFL update for the day. We will begin to talk bowl games. They kick back off again tonight. We'll talk the rest of the quarterbacks in the transfer portal. But first, Andy Burcham gives us his thought on number 2 Auburn and what they did to Ohio State this weekend, and maybe what he has learned in the last week or so about this Auburn basketball team and what he thinks of what Auburn's doing in the portal. All that and more coming up next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Listen online, jocksfm.com. That app's in your app store. You can always get that on the go. Watch live on YouTube. Search JOX. Eight a.m. Tuesday, December 17th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Appreciate you tuning in. We will talk a little bit of Auburn with Andy Burcham here in just a moment, but some big news out of Chapel Hill, Greg. North Carolina has signed their first player under Bill Belichick.
Uh-oh.
Holy
Who
Cross
we got?
center Christo Kelly.
Crystal.
Belichick
Feel good about it?
Belichick moving the meter already.
See? Look at that. I tried to tell you.
Diamonds in the rough already. Just like the last couple drafts.
It's amazing to me how this is going to get covered. Not really in a bad way. It's just, I feel like a lot of the people working in the media world, you know, a lot of them are Northeastern, you know, obviously our offices are in Connecticut. CBS, NBC, CBS in Manhattan, NBC in Greenwich, Fox in California. That the one kind of being the outside world. But I feel like the way it's going to be covered, it's like a lot of these folks or a lot of people that haven't really followed college football are now following it because of Bill Belichick. Because it's like, oh, this guy, you know, I'm a diehard Patriots fan. And now look at Belichick's, he's at North Carolina. So we're going to be oversaturated, I feel like, across the board with the amount of coverage that he's going to receive. I just wonder if it lasts until, like, I don't know, May. I think it's going to be like a 1 month news cycle and it's going to go away. What do you think?
It's going to be interesting, yeah. But I do think it's going to bring a different it's going to be a different media to college football. Speaking of college football, we'll discuss it with Andy Bertram from an Auburn perspective. He joins us each and every week thanks to our friends at Craneworks. It is the voice of the Auburn Tigers, Andy Bertram.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah. The big dog's got it.
The voice of the Auburn Tigers, Andy Bertram on Mac and Cube in the Morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lift it, buy it, rent it, the big dog's got it. Now, Andy Bertram.
Andy, always good to have you in on a Monday morning. We appreciate it. And Auburn basketball on fire over the weekend, handing them Ohio State's biggest loss, I think, in over 20 years. What was different about this team in this game? What stuck out to you?
Boy, the way the game started, with Auburn shooting so very well from the outside, primarily Miles Kelly and Denver Jones, and then Janai Broome just took over. And in 26 minutes of action, 21 points, 20 rebounds, 5 more assists, 0 turnovers. And then sat for the last 9 minutes of the ball game because they wanted to give Jaheim Hudson a little bit more playing time. And it was a dominant performance. Ohio State jumped out to a 3-0 lead, and Auburn tied it on a three-pointer, and then the game was over. At that point, Auburn never looked back. And Auburn unloaded its bench in front of probably 8,000 or 9,000 at State Farm Arena in Atlanta. Auburn now 4-1 in that holiday hoop skimming event. Auburn's the only team to play in all 5 of those events. And it was just another example of what the Southeastern Conference has done so far in the non-conference schedule. And I know Joe Lunardi was on somebody's, I don't know, he was on, I saw something on Twitter, X, from Joe Lunardi. And I think he was asked to describe the SEC basketball right now, and he just said it's outrageous. I mean, right now the projection is maybe 10, 11, 12 teams in the NCAA tournament right now. And this Auburn ball club is playing as well as anyone. I'm sure the folks in Knoxville would disagree with me, and they're undefeated and number 1 in the country, and Auburn is number 2. But what the SEC has done so far in the non-conference, and Auburn has 3 more non-conference games left. Georgia State tonight, Purdue there in Birmingham on Saturday, and then Monmouth on the 30th before Missouri rolls into town in early January to start the Southeastern Conference. But, I mean, Auburn has a real opportunity, guys, to be a one-loss ball club with this non-conference schedule heading into SEC play. And as well as this team has played, I think that still is a little bit surprising that this team has an opportunity to go into SEC play with as few as 1 losses at this point.
Pretty wild. It's been super impressive to watch, and it's not with what they brought in. Nothing surprises me with what's going on in the SEC kind of across the board. How would you assess the approach that Bruce has taken and spreading out the minutes? And do you think he'll ultimately get back to trying to keep 7-8 in the rotation as the season progresses forward?
He has done that in the past, Mac, but I'm not sure he's had this kind of quality depth that he's had in the past. I think he probably pares down the minutes a little bit, but I don't think minutes for some of these guys completely goes away either, just because of what is about to begin. And as grueling, as competitive as Auburn's non-conference schedule has been, and it's the most competitive I've ever seen. We're also talking about you're about to get into the grind of the Southeastern Conference and maybe the greatest year of SEC basketball ever. So it's about to get tougher game in and game out in the SEC. And I think quality depth is an enormous advantage for a team like Auburn once you get into the SEC. Because, listen, there's going to be a night when somebody has an off night, or there's going to be a game where somebody is a little bit hobbled or just isn't playing because of an injury or a nagging injury, or you're going to get into foul trouble. That's bound to happen. And that depth becomes even more of a factor for this Auburn ball club.
Andy Burcham, voice of the Auburn Tigers, joining us on the Buyers Right hotline. He is with us each and every week, thanks to Craneworks. Janai Broome continues being just masterful for this Auburn basketball team, Andy. First Auburn player with 20 points, 20 boards since Kelvin Artister in 1989. First Division I player last 25 seasons, 20 points, 20 boards, 5 assists, no turnovers. Is it just another year of maturity and awareness? Is there a specific facet of his game that's visibly noticeable to you that's different than it was a year ago?
Well, the assists. I mean, he's Auburn's a leading assist man right now. Your 6'10" center, who is one of the odds-on favorites, if not the odds-on favorite to win National Player of the Year, leads an Auburn team in assists. So that's the biggest change. But I thought we saw Saturday. I thought we saw all of his game on display. He has the outside jumper when he needs it. Obviously, as a back-to-the-basket player, he has all the moves. But we saw him take the ball from the top of the key to the basket. It reminded me a little bit, and I'm not trying to compare him to this Hall of Famer, but some of these moves that I saw from Janai on Saturday reminded me a little bit of Akeem Olajuwon. Now, he's not as big as Akeem. Akeem was a true 7-footer, if I'm not mistaken. But some of the moves that he is using around the basket and getting it to the basket, and the athleticism that he has shown. And that's another thing. You know, they joked a little bit about Janai that, you know, he didn't have the hops. But, man, he is so athletic this season, and especially with the basketball. His all-around game, and it has improved every year that he's been at Auburn. To Janai's credit and to this coaching staff's credit. This young man who graduated, imagine that. You get 21 points and 20 rebounds and 5 assists and no turnovers on national TV in Atlanta. And you get on a bus and you drive back to Auburn and literally walk into Neville Arena. I don't even know if he unpacked his bags in the locker room and put on a robe and graduated with Cheney Johnson. That's a pretty good day, you know? That's a really good day in the life of Janai Broome. And what we are watching, guys, with what Janai Broome is doing is one of the great performances individually in Auburn basketball history, period. That includes Charles and Chuck and Jabari and Walker and guys that even further back, the Rex Fredericks of the world back in the day.
Pullman.
What we're watching from Janai is one of the all-time great basketball performances so far this season.
It's been fun to watch. Go ahead, Greg. Go ahead. You got it.
Yeah, moving over to football just quickly, and no denying that Janai's been great. Auburn's brought in 2 quarterbacks already, a tackle, a few other pieces that are seemingly close. How would you assess the way the portal has gone for Hugh Freeze and company up to this point?
I think they've done a terrific job of starting to fill the needs with this ball club after the National Signing Day. a week or 2 weeks ago. We knew that they needed quarterbacks in the quarterback room. They have two guys that have started, have been successful at Oklahoma and at Stanford. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not another one in the pipeline at this point. Hugh Freeze he says he always wants to have 4 quarterbacks in that room. And with Deuce Knight, they now have 3. So is there another one out there? And that is if Walker White stays in the portal at this point. Now, they've helped themselves in the tailback room. They have helped themselves on the offensive line. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not another defender out there that Auburn is trying to get in the portal to help themselves up front defensively. They helped themselves in the secondary with some veterans at corner and at safety right now. And they've helped themselves at wide receiver to get some veteran presence to go with the guys that are the rising sophomores coming up. I think they've helped themselves a great deal. Now, listen, the proof's in the pudding, and we'll see how these guys pan out. But I like the fact that they've put together this portal class, and these guys I think will be here next month, and we'll go through spring ball. I think that's very important for these guys, and I like what Auburn's been able to do, and I don't think they're done at this point.
All right, before we let you run, Andy, Georgia State tonight. Anything we need to know about this matchup for Bruce Pearl's team? 7 o'clock on the SEC Network, and obviously you'll be on the radio call.
Yeah, it's a Georgia State team that shoots the ball well from the outside. Really one really good rebounder on the inside. Auburn's the better basketball team going into this one tonight. This is a game as far as execution is concerned. It's similar to me to what the Richmond game was a week and a half ago, where you come off of a very emotional, a loss at Duke, and you have Ohio State coming up, and it was a possible track game with Richmond, and it didn't turn into that. And Bruce Pearl was complimentary of his team because of that. And I think tonight is the same situation. You come off of a dominating win. You have Purdue with another national television audience coming up on Saturday, and what seems like it's going to be an enormous crowd there at Legacy Arena at the Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center. So tonight's the possibility for a trap game. The students are not in town, so the atmosphere at the Jungle may not be completely what it typically is. So how does Auburn execute tonight? They're not in class. I mean, this is basketball time for this team as it gets ready for Purdue. So that's how I look at this one tonight. We're on the air tonight at 6:30, and looking forward to it before Auburn heads to Birmingham for the Purdue game Saturday at 3:30.
Andy, always appreciate the time. Great stuff as usual. Have fun tonight, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you. All right, I appreciate it. Let me tell you about Rental Works. Offers a full line of rental equipment for any of your machinery needs. They offer operators for every type of equipment as well. They can supply the equipment you need, plus the man to do the job. Go to craneworks.com for a quote in Birmingham, Nashville, Mobile, and Huntsville. Guys, I hope you have a Merry Christmas.
Oh, I thought Greg's going to be on the game Friday night, just in case you were wondering.
Oh,
yeah.
Where are you, Greg?
We'll be in South Bend, Indiana, my friend.
Ooh. You know, that's one place I've never been. I went to Indiana State. I was born in Indiana. I've never been to South Bend. I've never been able to call a game. I'd love to call a game in South Bend one day, whether it's football, basketball, or baseball. I'd like to do it. So enjoy South
awesome.
Bend, Greg.
Yeah, look forward to it. It's supposed to a little snow in the forecast, and I haven't been since I was a recruit, so it's been a long time. I'm not sure I know my way around, but I'm excited about going back and being the first ABC crew to call a game there in 35 years. So it's these don't happen very often. So pretty cool.
I'll be interested to hear just about the atmosphere in the building. You know, just because it's the first of its kind, these playoffs at home sites. I'll be interested to hear what you say about it.
Oh yeah, look forward to it for sure.
Andy, appreciate the time. We'll catch up next week.
You bet. Take care.
There you go. Andy Burcham, voice of the Auburn Tigers, joins us each and every week thanks to our friends, at Craneworks. On the other side, we'll begin a little bit more college football conversation around the portal, who's getting who's going where. And it's not just Auburn and Alabama. We'll discuss more right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, or should I say Auburn radio, as the folks are frustrated. Nate Oates Burner tweeting it. I'm actually listening to the Birmingham Auburn football station. Noted Auburn fans at Cole Cubelic and Greg McElroy. It's what I am. It's who I am. That's all we talk about is Auburn on this show. We didn't, needless that we don't need to talk about the Jalen Mbakwe discussion that Greg went into detail earlier in the show, the Emmanuel Henderson talk earlier in the show, in which we detailed him leaving, defensive lineman Vodney, whatever his name is, Cleveland, who decommitted earlier in the show. We don't need that. That's nonsensical. It does not. The offense and the scheme that we talked about with Kalen DeBoer and Nick Sheridan, that's not a part of today's show. It didn't really happen. Those folks who heard that over the airwaves, that did not take place. You have had the Men in Black magical wand waved in front of your face, and you did not hear Alabama discussion here on the show. Just play the music. Just go. We'll be like an NBA game and have music the whole show.
So too much barn. Too much barn.
That's apparently it. Noted Auburn fans, Cole Cubelic and Greg McElroy.
G-Mac? Big Auburn guy?
That's what it says. Yes.
Interesting. Didn't see that one coming.
The Justice Haynes conversation we had earlier in the show about him only going over double-digit carries once and having one 100-yard game in Alabama, that was not a real part of our conversation today. We didn't have that. We didn't do that. Not a real part of what was done today.
Okay.
No, it didn't take place.
It didn't happen.
The top three where he talked NFL, no,
Nope.
Not a real part of today's show.
Too much barn.
That's
all it's been.
all Auburn, the whole show today. It's all we ever talk about on this show. It's the only thing we can do. It's the only thing we have. It's just who we are. So we'll try to try to continue to be that. A couple players that are leaving for the NFL draft following our NFL conversation in top three at the back end of last hour, which I guess actually did not happen. So that must have been a figment of my imagination. But USC running back Woody Marks is set to head to the NFL. And I actually think he's former Mississippi State running back last 2 years at USC. I think he's going to be a really good pro because I have been studying this tackle that is transferring, I'm just going to say, into the Southeastern Conference because apparently there's certain schools that we've mentioned too much today. And we don't need to mention them anymore. So I'm not going to mention said school again that is getting a tackle from the portal. But in doing so, watched a little bit more Woody Marks. And I'm just telling you, like, the kid can go. He is, I can remember talking to him in Mississippi State and just a bright, colorful young man, like full of personality, and watching him run and watching him operate in that offense, I think he's going to be a really good pro. The other sort of head scratcher, which I believe we saw an announcement a couple weeks ago that he was going to return to school. And I'm not sure which would have been the bigger head scratcher here. Florida State quarterback DJ Uiagalelei has announced that he will enter the NFL draft.
Okay.
And again, I'm not sure which would have been more confusing, the coming back to Florida State or the going into the draft. Probably feels like time to just go ahead and give that a shot. I'm sure Skip Holtz could work some miracles with him. But yeah.
I was thinking more Houston Roughneck. Yeah. I'm with you, brother.
We all have our dreams. I wish him the best.
Right.
It's not one that feels like, I don't know if he could have gone down and actually played somewhere. I don't know how. I don't know what the actual options were. I mean, obviously he probably wants to keep making money. But either way, it's just one that I think a lot of people are going to look at and say, yeah, how? Is that really going to be a thing?
And my question on DJU, and I mean, you've seen him a lot and breaking him down. Why do you think he's as inconsistent as he is? Like,
can you turn that back to Auburn somehow, please? Because we haven't mentioned Auburn in like 3 minutes. I feel like if we don't do that, we're gonna lose listeners.
If he had gone into the portal and could potentially been an Auburn
a player, exactly what I was thinking there. Yes. No, I don't think Hugh Freeze would have gone that direction. But I do think that there would have been some other suitors that were not named Auburn as we continue to get the school's name there thrown out on the station. So that's what we have to do here. We're contractually obligated, according to some, to do that. Actually, Bama Hater accuses me of being contractually obligated to discuss Alabama on the show. So now I'm very conflicted with exactly what I am and what I'm contracted to be.
See, that's why I'm an equal opportunity hater. You can't say I'm a homer to anybody because I'll walk in here with an Auburn shirt one day, an LSU shirt the next, Georgia, maybe not A&M, but maybe Texas. Or
but we know
Oklahoma.
No matter what shirt everybody's wearing, the conversation comes back to Auburn. On an every minute basis here on the show.
I'm here for it.
That's just what it is. That's who we are. So, yeah, I think Woody Marks will be a good pro. Uiagalelei, I don't really see him on a roster. We did mention that Bill Belichick has his first commit at UNC. There's another sort of celebrity name that's being bounced around as a potential head coach. Not at Auburn, by the way.
No, they have their coach.
I want to clarify that. 1, 2, go ahead and get Auburn out there again.
Yeah.
Just make sure people know that we are not going an extended period of time without mentioning Auburn here on All Barn Radio. But this is actually something that's interesting because this has sort of worked. And I think you could have labeled Coach Prime this early in his Jackson State tenure, but I don't think you can really label him that now. I mean, he has legitimate head coaching experience now, so I don't think he falls in that category anymore. But you could say initially it did work. Now, he had some advantages with who he was going to bring with him and who he got to come play for him. But that's part of being a coach, talent acquisition, however that may take place. Eddie George was just coach of the year in his conference. That's when you could look at it and say, yeah, that thing's working out. And so we've seen guys try to move into this role, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it feels like there might be a little bit more of a trend of this working than not, because I think a lot of people just immediately say, oh, that's never going to work. Oh, that's not going to, that guy can't go do that. Apparently Sacramento State is talking to Mike Vick about being their head coach. Now, I don't know. I don't think that there is any head coaching experience, but one thing that we do know, and like what Greg said with the Bill Belichick hire at North Carolina, there's a completely different media that is now paying attention to college football, number one, now paying attention to North Carolina football, number two. So I think when you look at it and you say, all right, because there has been all this discussion about Sacramento State's NIL fund and these people ready to put all this money in and X amount of millions that they have or either will have or want to have, and they want to make the move up, so on and so forth. But this would be absolutely a splash hire from that perspective of going out and getting somebody that everybody knows and that everybody believes would bring you more attention. But I just don't know from an actual coaching standpoint, especially in college, if he's going to be ready to pull that off. So I
know he's coached like some 7-on-7 teams, but I don't think he's like organized.
Absolutely ready.
Football.
Yes.
Maybe skill-wise. He'd be a great offensive coordinator. Skill-wise.
But apparently Norfolk State's also reached out to him.
Okay.
So whatever he's doing from a coaching or attention perspective, he has people tuned in. And there are folks that are, I guess, ready to sign up and go be that guy. All right, I want to get to outside of some of the coaching stuff. The last couple things there with that. Dave Clawson's going to step down at Wake.
Is he going to Auburn?
No.
Okay.
But Wake did play an SEC school last year, not named Auburn. So I guess that's how we can pull them back into the conversation there. He'll keep an advisory role with the school. Longtime tenured coach, has done a lot of great things. We know his offense, how he runs it. Great guy. And you can imagine that some of this is just the headaches that come along with being a college coach in today's world. It's just different. It's time consuming. And a lot of guys just aren't really up for it anymore. Also, Florida State's Mike Norvell is going to restructure his contract and give $4.5 million back to the school. Now, if you recall, last spring, he got a new deal, a bigger deal, in which now school looking at it saying, yeah, that's too much, and this revenue sharing thing is coming, so we're going to need a little bit back. $4.5 million going to go back to the school. It's not new. It's not brand new. It's happened. We just saw Brian Kelly say he'll match from his own pockets up to $1 million in NIL if fans can generate that money, which, I would love to know how LSU fans feel about that. You'll give us yours if we give you more. And I feel like most LSU fans would probably look at that and say, hey, we've been given. So, and we'll keep giving, but we're not going to give more just because you're going to match it. I can imagine a lot of fans are growing a little bit tired of the continued ask. I've actually heard that from multiple fans from multiple schools. Just like, enough is enough. We've paid for this, we've paid for that. You've asked us for this, you've asked us for that, and now you want even more. But that's today's world of college football. It's where we are. And I think it's going to continue because we don't know where this thing's going. Everybody says, oh, July, revenue sharing comes. That thing's not done yet. And a lot of folks walk around acting like this thing's completed. And I, for one, think there are going to be a lot more hurdles in front of it than maybe a lot of people imagine right now. So we don't know where that's going. Also, Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State. I mean, these folks sat there and said that they had him fired for cause if he did not take less money so they could pump some into their NIL fund, which was mind-blowing to me because if you have reason to fire said guy for cause, would you not fire said guy?
Instantly. But who knows?
Well, that's a hell of a leverage play.
Exactly.
Hey, we know you're fireable, but we're going to keep you until you're not keepable.
Right.
Then, so you know, we have reason to run you because we don't really like you, but we don't think we can do better than you.
Because they thought he was going to Auburn. That's what kept him.
I'm not sure if they were ever in the mix there, but we did get their name thrown out.
He did play an SEC school too. He played Arkansas, who also
played Auburn.
Come on now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
WDE.
Only difference was only one beat Arkansas. That goes against everything we stand for right there. I
It
shouldn't have done
does.
it. I should not have done it.
It's
Because
factual though.
Now we just, why did we even do that? Not sure. So is this the future of college football? Is this going to be a massive part of where we're headed, where we're going? Because I think the schools that financially, and listen, I'm just telling you guys, there are SEC schools right now that are extremely nervous running around their facilities as how to make certain things financially work. Because when revenue sharing comes in, there's going to have to be a lot of restructuring and a lot of redistribution of funds inside that athletic department. So, I mean, number one, I think it depends on who your representation is. And are they going to even allow this? Because there are certain guys representing certain coaches that are making 8 figures a year. They're going to say, no, because I take that cut too, and I'm not taking it. Other coaches who may have options at other places that aren't going to try to pull this are just going to say, you know what, I'll go over there. And if you have it for cause, prove it. So, but we can imagine that a lot of these schools are going to be coming to these coaches saying, we can't pay this anymore. If you want the roster you say you want, if you want the talent that you say you want, this is how it has to go. Because first and foremost, what a lot of guys are saying right now is that it is going to be revenue sharing plus. And I can tell you guys right here live on Auburn Radio that multiple people at multiple schools have asked me over the course of this last season, what's everybody going to do with their collective? How are the collectives going to work? What are the collectives going to be responsible for? I think certain schools have a vision of what they want the collectives to be, but nobody truly knows. Very similar to a lot of other things in college football is that we got to a lot of these places we are now because we didn't know. We didn't know how the 4-game redshirt rule is going to work. We didn't know how collectives were going to work. We didn't know how NIL was going to work. So for the folks that just say, oh yeah, the collectives are going to do this. And then what's the underbelly? Give me the dark alleys that they're going to be creeping around with the collectives and how those things are going to operate now. Because a lot of folks just look at it on the surface level of, oh, that's what they say they do. Okay, now flip it upside down and tell me the people who are doing everything they can behind the scenes to try to do a little bit extra and gain a little bit more and get that edge, how are those operating? Because that's what I need to know now. Because what will happen is 6 months after we get going, certain schools will be able to snake the rules somehow, some way with how they're set up as a university in their state or what state laws allow. And then they're going to start doing something through their collective and everybody's going to say, how are they doing that? What? But we don't know. So a lot of these schools just flat out aren't going to be able to afford it. And I think this is going to become more normal than we would ever imagine. Now, that could be 5 more coaches, 8 more coaches, because we don't think any coach would sit there in their right mind and say, yeah, not giving you 4.5 back. I know we were terrible. I know we won 2 games, but that's my money. I signed that contract. You signed that contract. In the words of Tony Soprano, well, yeah, I can't say that on the air.
Right.
So,
But
yeah, you get it. Michael Kirby tweets in, will the Auburn coaches take a pay cut for NIL?
Oh, boy.
You see, that's why I specifically went to that tweet.
Oh, boy.
Because we came full circle into Auburn Radio. I don't even really care to go into the topic. I don't really care about the subject matter. But what I do appreciate, Michael, is keeping us on brand.
There we go.
And Michael just threw us a massive assist. Like Andy Burcham talked about Janai Broom's part of his game that's improved the most are the assists.
Yep.
He's the leading assister on Auburn's basketball team under Bruce Pearl. Once again, full circle. We just keep
here for
we
it.
just keep running that circle, man.
Auburn, baby.
That's it. That's all we are. It's all we're good for. And we'll have more of it next on Jocks 94.5. Welcome back in. Auburn Radio. Jocks 94.5. Paperwork has been filed to change it to WAUB.
I like that.
Have not gotten that through yet. The FCC has not cleared that, but that is coming soon. Cody Gonterman tweets into the show at Mac and Cube. I don't think y'all have talked enough about Auburn this morning.
Let's go.
We're working on it, Cody. We're doing our best to try to be able to get there. J Gus 10 tweets in, could y'all get into AU baseball after the break, please?
Hey, we're here for it. We're here for it.
Try and roll right into that. So Butch Worley tweets in, yes, we're on the verge of Red Ass at Cole Cubelic on at Mac and Cube. We're working on it, or I should say they're working on it. It's getting us there.
I think more orange and
It's
blue.
usually not self-inflicted, but it is assisted when it comes in. Matt Zennett's reporting that UAB is set to name Kevin Garver its new wide receivers coach. He is labeling sources for that information. He's been at UAB as an analyst, previously the receivers coach in the NFL with the Bucs and Cardinals, coached players like Larry Fitzgerald and Mike Evans. So Trent Dilfer looking to make an addition to his staff. We'll give you the latest on if that actually were to take place. 800-239-9569 if you want to get in on the Buyers Right hotline. McElroy should be back before the end of the hour, if not next hour at some point. He had a personal matter to take care of, and Larry wants to chime in on coaches. Larry, welcome into the show.
Hey, guys, enjoy the show always. Just want to throw something out there. And obviously, both of your opinions, I definitely want to hear your guys' opinion. But with respect to the 9-game schedule, do you really believe it was more about the money or about the coaches not allowing it? I just wanted to throw that out and get your opinion, guys. Thanks a lot.
No, I think I think that's your last leverage play if you're the SEC. The fact that you're under the new contract right now, one of the few things that I think you had to be able to go back to the table with was an extra conference game. So I think it was more about the money and more about, hey, if we're gonna get a bump in this deal, what are the different ways that we can do it? And probably the primary way was to say, let's add an extra conference game. Do I think most coaches wanted it? No. But I do think that if the league absolutely had to have it, there were ways that they could have convinced the coaches to do it. A la, how would you guys each like an extra $20 million a year in revenue to be able to help with revenue sharing and facilities and salary and whatnot? So I think that's all it would have taken to get everybody on board, but I think it was mostly a financial play, yes.
With respect to Fox, with what they did with the Big Ten, I just wondered that because, I don't know, I thought Coach Saban's point was absolutely right on, spot on. But the thing about it, though, is with respect to ESPN and the billions that they have, I would have thought that they would have entertained it immediately, obviously with respect to the 16 teams. But I don't know, guys. I was just wondering.
Oh, Larry, I think it was absolutely entertained. Don't get that wrong. I think it was entertained, discussed, put on the table for negotiation, but I just don't think that the two sides could come to an agreement. But it was absolutely discussed.
But just a rough estimate. What type of money with an additional game would that be costing? Obviously ESPN. There's no telling. I have no clue. I just was curious. But thanks, guys. I just wanted to hear your opinions and do the show every day.
No, we appreciate the call. Appreciate you being a part as well. 800-239-9569 if you want to get into the show. 800-239-WJOX. Did not mention Auburn also getting a transfer from Miami, Ohio cornerback Rayon Strader. Hadn't seen the tape. When we do, we'll give you the latest on that, but just felt the need to get Auburn into the show again, somehow, some way, because it had been a good 3.5 minutes since we had done that. So wanted to make sure that was something that took place. College football coming your way tonight. Scooter's Coffee Bowl, number 29 Memphis at 10-2. Ryan Silverfield's group will take on West Virginia at 6-6 with an interim coach. We know Rich Rod stepping in to become the head coach next year. But Memphis, West Virginia in the Scooter's Coffee Bowl tonight. Travis is in Winfield, wants to talk college football. Travis, welcome into the show.
Hey, guys. How are y'all this morning?
Great. How are you?
Good. Appreciate y'all doing the show every morning. Love to listen to it. Question is, what does Alabama have to do to go out and beat Michigan? Because Michigan ain't the team they were last year. But Alabama, the losses they've had has been terrible.
I think if you're going to knock off this Michigan team, number one, be able to stop the run, be able to slow down gap scheme because you're going to get a ton of counter, a ton of power. and then manage the defensive line, but I'm not even sure exactly how much of that Michigan defensive front's going to be there. So essentially win the line of scrimmage is basically what needs to happen for Alabama to be able to get this win. And I mean, I think if Alabama can put up 17, you probably get this game. It's not a Michigan offense that's going to give you a lot of scares as far as how they operate. Now, the physicality is going to be there. Blunt force trauma going to be there. But I think if you can offset that and you can manage that part of it, then you're going to be okay. Brandon wants to talk portal. What team, Brandon?
Hey, well, actually, I'm a Bama fan, but with these transfers that Auburn is getting, I'm a little worried. Now, I'm worried for the fact of, they're, a higher talent, but I'm not worried in the aspect of I don't know if the coaching can coach them up. And I did actually have another question, and I'll listen to your comment after I hang up. But the other question is with this NIL, is it a per year basis, or can they actually sign these kids to an NIL deal saying you're locked in for 3 years, just like, like an NFL or any kind of professional team? And I appreciate you taking my call, and I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I appreciate that. From an Auburn portal perspective, I do think that the offensive line has been improved. I think the talent level, like this Mason Murphy tackle from USC, I'm a fan. I like him. I think he can play. I'm not going to say just dominant plug and go first rounder right now. He's on Marcus McNeil, but I do think that he can be better than what Auburn has had at that position in recent memory. Xavier Chaplin out of Virginia Tech, solid. He's long. I worry about leverage a little bit. Pad level is a little bit concerning. He does have a couple struggles in pass pro, specifically with speed, because he's a bit of a backbender, but some of that can be coached out of him. But he's got ability. He's got good feet. For 6'7", 323, he moves well. But I want to see him be able to anchor a little bit more, because leverage, like I said, has been a little bit of a problem. Quarterback room, talent, better than it's been. That doesn't mean you're going to get better quarterback play just right away. So I do think that there are certain spots you look at and say, okay, yeah, it looks better. But losing Amaris Williams, I think that's a big hit. I think losing guys like Micah Riley could be a big hit, who were just one of the few guys that went out and actually played a real physical brand of football. Darrell Robinson coming in from UConn, I think he's a good back. We just talked about Woody Marks, who transferred from Mississippi State to USC. I don't think he's Woody Marks, but I think he can help. He's a bit of a slasher, gets north and south, has good speed, good spin move, good stiff arm, but I don't think he's an upgrade from Jarquez Hunter by any stretch of the imagination. But you need more than one back in this league now. So I think that's all been good. What was the second part of his question, John? Do we remember? Specifically the Auburn
There was an
part.
Auburn something and Alabama something.
Go to Tim. I forget what he asked. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Tim, what's on your mind today?
Good morning. Good morning. On the revenue sharing, will Auburn be required to spread those funds across all programs within the athletic department?
It's a great question. I don't know if we had the exact answer to that yet, exactly how it's going to work. And once again, this is not done. This is not completed. It's not completely agreed upon. And I, for one, think that there are more hurdles in place. And there are going to be more reasons for more lawsuits, and that's going to be a problem, and that's what everyone is attempting to avoid. So, got to get to a break. More Auburn talk next on Mac and Cube in the morning. 8:50 Tuesday, December 17th. Jocks 94.5. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Auburn plays Georgia State in basketball tonight, 7 o'clock on the SEC Network. I just figured I needed to get that in. Discuss that a little bit. John, why are you back, by the way? You had a doctor's appointment. They said it was an emergency?
Yeah, I was told by my doctor I needed to come in for testing. They
By
need
the
to
way,
see him.
these Instagram reels where people are using that emergency song,
Correct, yeah.
I will punch you if I hear you playing that song. I just want to let everybody
You
know.
got to worry about that. No,
Stay
no.
away
I
from
ain't
me
about
with that
don't
song.
worry. No.
They called you in,
Correct, yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Told you needed to come see them.
Was told I needed testing. Didn't even see the doctor. Told by the doctor I needed testing.
Right.
So I was like, all right,
But
cool.
They summoned you
Yeah.
to be there.
Mhm.
And then you arrive.
I arrived. I pulled in the parking lot 8:19. The appointment was 8:15. I admit I was late. I knew that. I'd caught every
She
single
said,
light.
do you know who I work with?
You would think. Yeah,
Always behind.
Yeah, correct. GMAX screwed everything up. Caught every single light on that long road in Homewood, passing the park or whatever. Like I caught every
Green
single
Springs?
one. Yes. No, not that. No, the one. Is that Green Springs?
It goes up over the hill and down towards downtown?
No, the one that goes by the park and
Valley.
where Heroes Donuts and all like that.
Oxmoor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I caught every single light on that one. Again, admittedly
There's
late.
some lights there.
Understand, I'm not frustrated, whatever, over
Yeah.
that. Pulled in the parking lot 8:19. Walked into the lobby at 8:20. Was there signing in at 8:21, and was told that like you were late. We can't see you.
Can't or won't should have been your response.
Felt like a little bit of both.
No, it's definitely won't. Definitely could. Definitely could fit you in somehow.
You see me
It's
right here.
100% won't.
Correct.
Did they see that when you wrote it down, or did they just know? Because why did you not lie about arrival time and put 8:15?
I thought about that. No, as I was writing
My
down.
arrival time, by the way, is always on the minute of the appointment. if
Of
I'm
course.
late.
Like I didn't even. I was writing it down. The lady asked me, "Hey, what's your name? Are you the 8:15?" Yes. And then the other lady that was there, that seemed like she had Dan Campbell teeth.
Whoa.
She said, you were late. The appointment was 8:15. I was like, I know, understand. I'm sorry. Can I still be seen? No, your appointment was 8:15. We've had to move on.
All right, so we have medical professionals that listen to the show. I would love to know, what's your criteria of actually cutting a patient off like that? Like, is it you just don't ever do it? There's no leeway. There's no, we give no leash here. This is it. It's cut and dry. Boom. It's you are cut off. What would have been 1 minute late?
Maybe
2 minutes late.
Not quite sure. I don't know.
Because I had an old boss in pharmaceutical sales one time, and they had our national sales meeting in Las Vegas. Bad move for them. And I came in 3 or 4 minutes before our meeting one morning, which there were some nights.
Of course.
This is a different me, a long time ago. And he pulled me aside after the meeting and he said, hey, you need to be here 10 minutes early. And I was like, the meeting started at 8. And he said, but 10 minutes early for every meeting. He's like, you need to be here early. He said, never be the last one to the meeting. And I said, why? He said, because you're late. He said, the last person's always late. And I said, so you're telling me someone's late for every meeting?
No matter
He's like,
what.
well, no, not necessarily. And I said, no. You just said the last person for every meeting is late. Therefore, someone is late to every meeting. So you're looking to get people in trouble for every meeting. He's like, well, no, that's not. It's just if you're last, you're late. And I said, so someone's going to be late for every meeting you have.
No matter what.
Unless we do like the old, here it comes full circle again, guys. When Auburn used to lock arms and walk out with Tuberville,
Everyone came out as one.
That's
Okay.
how we have to go into the meetings?
I guess.
10 minutes early, by the way, or else we're all late.
Mm.
What if we all show up at the same time, not 10 minutes early? Are we all late? So I just need to know, what's that standard there?
I don't know.
Because Trickett used to pull that too. Well, you weren't early. Well, I wasn't late, but you weren't early. So I'm late. Yes. I mean, it was literally like, what are the two guys who's on first deal? It was basically that.
So if I'd have gotten there at 8:10, I still would have been waiting, right? Because heaven forbid, the doctor actually, comes in, whatever, to see you right at 8. It's never at the appointment. You always have
I
to
say
be seen
you
by the nurse
schedule
and all this
another
and that.
appointment with this doctor. And if you go back 1 minute after your scheduled appointment, you say, not paying. And they say, why? And say, you got me in after my appointment time. Those are my rules.
By the way, already paid for that, even though
Now
obviously
not being
couldn't
able to
get
see you.
seen. Right.
I'll actually raise you on this topic. I'll, as you like to do, play poker. I'll push my chips in the middle of the table.
Okay.
I was actually fired as a patient once by a doctor.
I think
That's
I might.
not a joke.
I'm
That is not a
surprised.
joke.
Hope he doesn't listen. And if he does, this will be awkward.
He's in
at
North
11:15.
Alabama. Nobody cares about him anymore.
Oh, well, my guy might.
Based on the way they handled that, I don't think that they would care.
Now, they were able to reschedule 11:15, but the annoying part was we set this up on Friday. They said, do you want, he's booked all week. We only have 2 spots available, 8:45 Monday, 8:15 Tuesday. I'm like, all right, I'll take 8:15. So I get the, hey, we got 11:15. I couldn't have that to begin with?
As the other patient they fired
Oh, okay.
for not filling out their paperwork on time.
In this economy. Okay. All right. Just firing them. All right.
They said they had enough patients that they didn't need me as one.
And my copay. All right.
I'll keep my money then. Find another place to go.
And this sickness. Lucky me. Call me disturbed.
All right, we're back with more Auburn talk next. Nine o'clock, hour number 3. Jocks 94.5, Auburn Radio, according to most. McElroy, how was the performance?
Terrific.
There we go.
We got to see, I was actually quite impressed. For kindergarten, they did a pre-K performance before the kindergartners. And the level of dysfunction amongst the pre-K crew is about what I expected, right? Guys kind of doing their own thing, no one really singing, kind of doing, the teachers are doing more of the singing. And then from pre-K to kindergarten, you can tell there's a pretty significant leap. They did a good job.
All right.
They did a good job.
There we go.
I was actually quite proud. Very solid.
Did you get Frosty the Snowman? Little jingle bells?
No Frosty. A couple of Polar Puppies. No, didn't know that one. Not familiar with that one.
Is that a Paw Patrol ripoff?
No, we got just your standard Jingle Bells at the end.
Yeah.
That was the finale. And then one in the middle that had something to do with bells, but couldn't quite capture exactly what it was they were saying, but it sounded pretty good.
There it is.
Was it just
they
vocal?
were in tune?
Was it just vocal? No instruments?
No, the Jingle Bells at the end, a cappella.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, not a cappella.
Boys
There was
to
a
Men
ukulele
song.
in that one.
Ukulele?
No, there's a ukulele in the
Who was
Jingle
playing
Bells.
that?
But no saxophone, right?
The music teacher. The music teacher
okay.
rips at the elementary
I feel
school.
like that's
He's
kind of
legit.
cheating, but okay.
He's really talented. He's a
You
young
didn't
guy.
see
I
Coach
think,
Saban out there throwing passes to guys.
Well, fair enough. I mean, but he had to lead the witness a little bit. I'm not saying that the kids couldn't have handled Jingle Bells on their own, but the ukulele, just a little accoutrement. You know what I mean? Just a little green onion on top of the delicious chili, if you will. It's not a lot to it.
Sometimes that leading the way in that position, it looks absolutely exhausting. I have told the young lady who is one of the in-crowd directors at my daughter's performance, holiday show-offs and summer show-offs, and she sits in that front row. And I mean, it is literally like gymnastics on speed. Just
gymnastics on what?
Speed, doing the YMCA. It's amazing. Just because she goes through the whole performance and she's trying to keep their attention, and it's like
right.
I look over there and I'm just like, I'm worn out watching that. I don't know how you can do that for 3 hours or wherever this thing costs or lasts, whatever that is. But yeah, it's it can wear you out. There's no doubt about it. So we have been accused of being Auburn radio in your absence. So I'm sorry you had to come back to that.
I was being accused as a big
you
boss.
actually were
noted
too.
Auburn fans. You and I both correct.
Yes.
Michael Kirby asked a great
sure.
question. John, what does your medical appointment and punctuality issues have to do with Auburn radio? It's a totally fair question by Michael. And we'll try to get back to it, but I just felt like it needed to be known that there were physicians out there that are cutting people off because they're 3 minutes late, which I didn't know why John didn't cheat and write the time down that he arrived as the appointment time. But I appreciate your honesty also. Either way, John. But John got...
I'm gonna need to know what made today Auburn radio.
The transfer portal.
And Andy Burcham.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. Well, Andy, yes, we're on the same page there.
I think the Olajuwon comp had a lot to do with it, which I understand. I understood where he was coming
Right.
from. I thought he was very careful and not to say, I'm not saying he is Olajuwon, but I think just how fluid he is for a big is what he was attempting to say, and I can actually see bits of what he's referencing there. That's why you got to be dangerous with comps, because people can't see context. People just see it's what they want to see, and you're going to get yourself in trouble when you try to do that.
That's true. To which I would say, when we start comparing it, but Yale. That's all I had to say. That's all you got to say. But Yale, but Bama, but Yale, but Tigers.
I don't know
but
why
Barn.
noted Auburn fan you would do that here on the show during Auburn radio. feels like a flaw in your delivery today, but hey. Each their own.
For the record, my doctor went to Ole Miss, so
you're saying we are
correct,
bucking.
yeah.
I bet he knows you work with me.
Mm.
And he's like, I friggin' hate that guy.
Yeah.
That damn Arkansas game. I hate that
Ole
guy.
Miss has a med school. That's what I mean. That's the biggest thing I was most intrigued by there. I didn't know Ole Miss had a med school. That's big.
Why you think Lane's getting all those boys over there, man?
They are racking up, by the way.
Come on.
I don't know who's having a better portal season, Ole Miss or LSU right now, but they both seem to be going well. It is funny when I'll meet a parent at my kid's school and they're Ole Miss fans. I'm like, sorry. I already know. You don't have to even say it. It's fine. Let's just go our separate ways because I know where it is. It's good. I don't even care anymore. It's fine. It wasn't me, but great. Glad you feel that way.
Well, here's the thing. I can live with the crazies on Twitter. That doesn't bother me. But Ole Miss's booth is right at the same level as like the high dollar suites. So when you have people walking out of the suite saying, bet you're happy after the Kentucky loss, we're talking about wealthy individuals that have achieved a lot in life, and yet they are not tweeting at you from their parents' basement. They're coming up to you in front of you saying, bet you're happy. And a guy accosted McDonough as well. Like, first of all, I could care less if Kentucky or Ole Miss wins. Doesn't really bother me. As long as the game's good, I don't care. Never have. But guy went after McDonough too.
Define accosted.
So, literally, like
verbally assaulted.
McDonough was like legit mad about it. So I don't know exactly what he said, but I think it was whatever it was. It was in the bathroom.
Oh,
and a guy went after
okay.
McDonough. Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
that's right. Choose to
yeah,
pick
bet
my
you know,
fights.
call it fair, Sean. I'm
The
sorry.
best part is that they weren't even listening to the game.
Maybe they had it in the suite. I don't know. They were in the suite. Remember, they're not sitting there in normal seats. These are in the suite, so maybe they do have access to the audio in there. I don't really care, but let me tell you what I don't care about: people coming up to me accusing me of bias during a broadcast. I can tell you a lot of things might bother me in life. The current state of government affairs, the inaction of certain parts of our government, how brutally terrible some things are in the world. Let me tell you what doesn't really bother me. Yep. People accusing us of bias during a broadcast. Doesn't really bother me too bad.
Not at all.
There are bigger fish to fry.
Not even worried about it.
Nah.
Kind of like your health that you might be worried about. If you lack energy, if you're getting poor sleep, if you feel on edge, like it sounds like the guy in the booth there was with McElroy and his TV crew. A lot
You
of guys.
think he was low T?
I was saying it could have been the
That's what
effects
you're
of low
getting at?
testosterone. I don't know, but I'm just saying if it was, that Game Day Men's Health could have helped by scheduling an appointment at GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Take a couple of minutes, do that, go in. You're going to get a free PSA test, free testosterone test at Game Day Men's Health, and they're going to help you feel better. It's that easy. A no-charge consult that includes both those tests at Game Day Men's Health. Also going to present to you a lot of different options and services that they have. Save 10% on any of those individually by mentioning Cube when you walk in the front door. Holistic approach to health and wellness. They have multiple weight loss programs also that they're going to help you out with, and a minimal upfront cost for the programs that they offer. Remember that part because it's different than everywhere else in town. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. So nonetheless, I did want to get to a couple of other players in the portal, not Auburn players, which I know is going to disappoint a lot of people. And that's something that they're going to say, why are we doing that and go in that direction? But otherwise, there were some players that ended up at different places that I feel like we need to talk about, GMAC, specifically quarterbacks. And as I stated earlier, I always like talking about where the quarterbacks are from and where they're going to end up with you. So we'll start with quarterbacks. Virginia lands North Texas quarterback Chandler Morris. Good fit, bad fit, automatic 10-win season.
Virginia, right?
Correct.
I don't know, man. Chandler Morris has been so many different places and has been, in so many different schemes. I think it's probably fine. I mean, he's a little like Anthony Calandria, where it's a little boomer bust, got some athleticism, but I mean, it's fine, I guess. I don't know why Chandler Morris continues to transfer as often as he does. And if it's about money, it's like your dad made a fortune as a head coach in college. Like, you're fine. Like, what are we doing here?
North Texas, in exchange of losing Chandler Morris, gets Miami quarterback Reese Poffenbarger. Your thoughts?
Where was he at? Miami?
Yes. Not of Ohio.
But he
Florida.
was originally, before that, he was like at FCS. He was somewhere before that, and it was pretty good. So he was brought in as the guy that might be the guy in the event in which they didn't land Cam Ward, and he was pretty good at whatever place he was. I just don't remember where it was.
Okay. Reese Poffenbarger, Albany was where he shredded.
Oh, yeah.
Before he got to Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. He threw for 3,603 yards, 36 touchdowns, 13 picks with the Danes. 59, 69, 56 touchdowns, 16 picks in 2 years. Ran for 5 touchdowns. So Poffenbarger now headed to North Texas. How about Kentucky landing former Texas and Duke quarterback Malik Murphy?
Wow. I thought he was going to Auburn.
Well, I see what you did there, bringing it back full circle and getting us back to Auburn radio, and I appreciate that. But no, he was not headed to Auburn. He did visit Auburn over the weekend.
There you go.
Who is he going to throw it to?
Well,
Don't need him. He's good enough as a runner that he needs to. He doesn't need to throw. Considering he had negative 50 rushing yards this year.
Oh, those are sacks.
So you think it's a good get? Is what you're saying?
I mean, I think he's a good player. I just am curious, like, why would you leave your situation at Duke? If the ultimate goal is to win games and go to the NFL, why would you leave your situation at Duke to go and pursue an opportunity at Kentucky where you're probably going to be swimming upstream most of the year?
Now, as Damian brought up offensively, it has been interesting for Kentucky to say the least. Gavin Winsat, which is a quarterback, doesn't really matter. Portal. Chip Trainum, running back. Portal. Dane Key, receiver. Portal. Barryon Brown, receiver, kick returner. Portal. Anthony Brown-Stevens, wide receiver. Portal. Jordan Dingle, tight end. Portal. Tanner LeMaster, tight end. Portal. Brandon White, receiver. Portal. Ben Chrisman, offensive tackle. Portal. Cortland Ford, offensive tackle. Portal. Kamari Anderson, tight end. Portal. Do I need to continue? I could give you all the defensive guys because there's like 8 or 9 of those too. But yeah, I mean, the weapons you don't know what the weapons are going to be. I think at running back, you're fine, but you don't have a lot of depth there. Offensive line, I'm not really sure if Bowling Green offensive lineman Alex Walschlager is going to get it done, but he's coming. He's coming.
Yeah.
And I will say, Stoops has done a pretty good job in the portal. His hit rate is pretty high. Chip Trainum was injured, so you didn't see a lot of him this year. Cortland Ford, I would say, was not a hit for them, but most guys they've brought in have helped and maybe exceeded expectations. So I guess that's the good news if you're Kentucky, but that's a big talent that you're bringing in a quarterback. Wisconsin, Greg, is going to get San Diego State quarterback Danny O'Neal. Your thoughts?
Don't know anything about him.
2,199 passing yards, 12 passing touchdowns last year for Danny. Haven't seen the tape?
I don't know who he is.
And finally,
oh boy,
your quarterback movement.
Let's go. I know exactly where you're going.
In the transfer portal.
Let's go.
The get of the week. Maybe of the offseason. Maybe just the get all time in the transfer portal. The Tulane Green Wave have gotten a signature from former LSU, former Auburn. See? Brought it back again right there.
No,
see,
not TJ Finley.
Y'all feel like I'm getting away from it, but I'm not. I'm not getting away from Auburn radio. Excuse me. Former Texas State, former Western Kentucky.
Let's go.
Quarterback TJ Finley is going to be playing in New Orleans.
Will Booker T say 5 times? 5 times.
Let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th school.
5th.
The only question I have is, does he have another year after this to get a 6th?
I hope so.
The answer.
Why are you hating on your boy?
The answer to that is usually yes.
I feel like you were all about him when he was part of the quote family. Now he's out, and now you got no time for him.
Actually, just made time for him on the radio show. We talked about him.
It's real convenient when your narrative aligns. Oh, he was the best thing ever when he was running out of the tunnel with
I can
Cadillac.
I can remember saying that too.
Who said that?
The best quarterback in Auburn history is right there. His name's TJ Finley. I can remember saying that on this show. Surprised John.
You wanted to start him
yet.
over Bo Nix.
I wanted to start him over Cam.
That ain't hard.
I mean, how could you not?
Look how big.
Look how big.
Right.
I mean, we're in our 5th school, folks. Here's the crazy part about it is he went down and had success.
Yes.
And then didn't stay.
Yes. Was cooking at Texas State, man. 8-5.
That is yeah, I can't do anything with that. I just don't know. There actually is one thing that I can do with that. Well, there's one other quarterback in the portal. He just doesn't have a destination yet.
Don't you do it. You talking about the former Auburn legend?
I'm going to bring it full circle again.
Let's go.
Former Texas A&M quarterback.
Giggle.
Former Auburn quarterback.
Yes, sir.
Former Incarnate Word quarterback. Zach Calzada is in the NCAA transfer portal.
Let's go. Let's go, Zach.
3,744 yards, 35 touchdowns last year, Greg.
Cooking.
What more could you ask for?
4,744
Coming back to Auburn.
and 45 touchdowns.
Exactly.
Is he going to end up at a big school? And if so, is he going to be successful?
I don't know. He could always throw it. I mean, he really could, but I feel like he kind of misplayed a couple things in his college career. A few missed opportunities, if you will.
Couple.
And I think it's a difficult one to come back from.
All right, we'll keep you updated on the NCAA transfer portal. Some other players that are headed to other schools. Like I said earlier in the segment, and I know this doesn't directly affect Auburn, but LSU and Ole Miss seem like the early winners of the transfer portal. Why? We'll tell you next right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. $9:19 a.m. Tuesday, December 17th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Bowl games tonight, just one, Scooter's Coffee Bowl. This can be on ESPN. 10-2 Memphis against 6-6 West Virginia. Memphis, number 25 team in the nation. So you will get some college football tonight after a doubleheader. Not a doubleheader. Why don't we stagger those Monday night football games more, Greg? I don't understand that. Start one at like 6 and one at 8.
I'm sure there's something to do with, you know, you can only have so many things in the window. I have no clue.
It just feels like it would be a pretty easy thing to do. We were going to talk transfer portal and the winners of the transfer portal thus far. We'll get to those teams here in just a moment. But first, I want to tell you about your CBD store. If you're looking for products to help you with weight loss, the Trim by SunMed on the shelves now at the largest brick and mortar CBD retailer on planet Earth. Dog treats to help your dogs with arthritis, anxiety. So if they're having trouble getting around, we had a couple of pets in our household that are having that issue. Your CBD store helped with that. Maybe they get a little bit upset when people ring the doorbell or the storms come through. They have products for anxiety for your pets as well, skincare and gut health. Skincare, gut health for you, and a lot of different products just to help make your daily routine better. Getting up to a better start to your day, better sleep, your CBD store can help. First company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. Go check out one of their 3 locations. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver, Trustful just off 459. Your CBD store where good health hits home. Ole Miss and LSU, Greg, are absolutely racking up in the transfer portal. We mentioned these schools a little bit yesterday and just kind of what they were already doing and what they had already done. And then they both add to it yesterday afternoon. LSU adds Florida edge Jack Pyburn. So you've added Michael Van Buren, Mississippi State quarterback. Don't need him to come in and be a starter right now. You've added Barryon Brown, who can be a home run threat at wide receiver or kick returner. Yes, there are some drops that need to be worked through. That's a bit of an issue. You've added Bauer Sharp, a flex tight end from Oklahoma, whose physicality got much better as the season went on. That can be a big-time mismatch problem at that spot. Jack Pyburn, who can now help you off the edge, gives you a little bit of oomph there. You've added Jamari Butler, an edge defender out of Nebraska. I would say so far, and Jakeem Jackson, by the way, corner from Florida. LSU has to be one of the early leaders as far as winning the transfer portal this cycle.
I would say that LSU, Auburn,
thanks for
LSU, Auburn, Ole Miss,
back to that. By the way, I appreciate that.
I would say LSU, Auburn, Ole Miss, and Texas Tech have kind of set the pace so far. Now, some of the guys that Texas Tech took, I really don't know. I don't know a lot of them, but an offensive lineman that supposedly is a pretty good player. A couple other guys that are considering Texas Tech. So those would kind of be the 4 right now that are out in front as far as portal guys that have been added to the roster. Who knows how all these things are going to close and how it'll all work out as the game goes along, but still pretty good starts for those teams in the portal right now.
Get off to a good start looking for a new home with Gusty Goulas and the Gusty Goulas Group. If you're trying to find a new house or just want to know what your house is worth, you can go to GustyGoulasGroup.com right now. Button at the top of the page, click that. Find out your home's value with very little information immediately. 205-542-1996 gets you in touch with the Gusty Goulas Group. Or you can Google Gusty Goulas Group and see over 835-star Google reviews. Served over 3,000 home buyers and sellers right here in the Birmingham area. 205-542-1996 or go to GustyGoulasGroup.com today and start packing. So let's go through Ole Miss and what they have brought in. Keywan Lacey commits yesterday, a former 4-star running back out of high school. Hadn't done a ton in college football just yet, but a big-time talent that Ole Miss bringing in, G-Mac. And we mentioned that running back position this past year was a little bit of an issue, even though they filled it up in the offseason. But just another very talented back, Lane Kiffin and company bringing in.
And I think that's part of the problem with them last year is that while you might have added quantity, they did not add quality last year. And that's something they're going to avoid this year. Like, they need to make sure they're smarter with who they bring in, and they need to get better backs. It's pretty simple. That was a huge position of liability. Whether they want to acknowledge it or not is up to them. But it's not something that I would continue to look at and be viewed as a position that is of unimportance. This is a very important position in this offense, and I think they found out that this past year just how important it may be.
You also go and you get Patrick Kudus, offensive lineman from Arkansas that's played a lot of football, not extremely powerful, but technically sound and has experience. You get P.J. Wilkins, an offensive lineman from Charlotte, 6'7", 340. He is big, but I'll say this. He's got good power. He can move you. He's got strong hands when he gets them on you. His punch is inconsistent. His hand placement's inconsistent. And he wasn't even a full-time player. He was kind of a rotational guy. So, and I thought he faded when he was in the game the longer he was in. So conditioning is going to be an issue with P.J. Wilkins if you're expecting him to come in and be a starter. But he does have the girth, the size to be to handle the SEC slate, I believe. Luke Haas, a tight end from Arkansas, comes in, which you and I talked about yesterday, Greg. Just a really nice get in this system. He can run. He's not afraid of contact and physicality at the line of scrimmage. Somebody who fits in well with what Coach Kiffin and company want to do.
Yeah, and I like what we've seen so far with where this team could go and utilizing the tight end. Kind of talked about it yesterday. I think Prieskorn's a fine player. I don't think he's great. He's a fine player. He's solid, not a super physical guy. I think Haas can be that guy for him. And now you have, I think, really capable weapons that are, I don't want to say interchangeable, but in many ways, if you account for one, you better be able to account for another. So I do think we'll see an offense shift here into becoming a little bit more two tight end based with the addition of Haas and now with Daquan Wright. That's where they should live, I think, moving forward. Maybe a little less because of the versatility that you have with Wright. And they're going to use tempo still, so they're not going to do a ton of substitutions. Wright and Haas, though, now you can play those guys at wide receiver. You can play those guys at end of line scrimmage. You can play one at H. You can play one at fullback. You can line them up split in the backfield. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do with those guys. So I like where they're going, and it's not going to alter who they are, but it's going to set things up nicely for them, I think, moving into next year.
And then you've got Prince Well, Uman Mielen, coming in from Nebraska, 6'5", 245, got good length, big, physical, not as twitchy as the Uman Mielen that they had off the edge last year, but a big body that can play off the edge. It can help you in a lot of different ways. And then you get Jalen Braxton, a cornerback out of Arkansas. It's going to come in. So you're filling needs, you're upgrading talent. And we asked the question yesterday, could Ole Miss continue to live this life and be in playoff contention? It looks like, Greg, so far this offseason, Lane Kiffin and company are going to be able to just continue doing what they've been doing.
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, I think that there's some buzz and some that they're already spending some of the money that the university is going to afford them. There's some buzz about that. I don't know if that's true. But they clearly have deep pockets that they're able to get into, because I know some of the offers that they're making to folks, they're blowing teams out of the water with what they're able to offer compared to what some of the other competitors are able to offer. So that's something interesting of note as well.
Absolutely. Also interesting to know what Wayne's can do for you around your house. You know, the termite control, they can handle that. Mosquitoes in the warm season, getting your yard ready when it warms up again. Dormancy's hit now, but if you want your yard lush, green, weed-free when it turns spring again, you need to go ahead and let Wayne's begin treatment. But also wildlife prevention and removal services. If you have squirrels, chipmunks, birds in the attic, in your crawl space, possum, raccoon in the garage, Wayne's can help, GMAC. Just another reason that our listeners need to know everything Wayne's offers.
Yeah, call them at 866-WAYNES-1. That's 866-WAYNES-1. It's awesome to know that they can do so many things around your house. I love the wildlife prevention stuff that they've now added to their incredible arsenal of ways to help you around your home. Call them today, 866-WAYNES-1, and visit callwaynes.com and let Wayne's continue to create your happy place.
We handed out the Heisman Trophy over the weekend, so that has been done, cleared. It's in the books. Moving forward, and this should be one that Greg absolutely loves, who would be some early Heisman contenders for 2025? It is, I mean, it's December, right? So we can talk about it.
We're allowed to talk Heisman.
This
counts,
okay.
yeah.
So we will talk 2025 potential Heisman candidates next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 9:32, Tuesday, December 17th, right here on Jocks 94.5. One of Greg's favorite topics, specifically in the month of November, even though now it's December, is the Heisman Trophy. Travis Hunter takes it this past weekend, but that got me thinking about the 2025 Heisman Trophy and who might even be a candidate. And I think when you begin to look around, G-Mac, especially depending on some guys that might come back and play more college football that have the availability to be able to do that, I'm not sure how many will. This could be a pretty crowded Heisman race next season. I think we started last year and said, yeah, there's maybe 3, possibly a 4th that could get in this thing. Dylan Gabriel, I think, was probably one for a lot of people. I think a lot of folks thought Ashton Jeanty might be able to sort of be in the mix, but maybe not to the extent that he was. And Travis Hunter was going to be thrown out. Shedeur Sanders was going to be thrown out. Cam Ward was going to be in there. But it looks like it could be a much more crowded, maybe Heisman race in 2025, depending on if most of these guys return or stay where they're currently playing.
Yeah, I would say that there are certainly a handful of guys. I do think it's always tricky because the transfer portal just makes things so unique and it's hard to evaluate. Like this, to me, this season, there was about 7 good candidates to win the Heisman. Any of the 7, I would have been perfectly fine with. I felt like Travis Hunter had a good argument. Like I told you guys the other day, I voted for Ashton Jeanty. Don't have any problem with Travis Hunter winning it. Just felt like Ashton Jeanty and what he did on his own superseded what Travis Hunter did. To me, it's a matter of preference. Didn't feel like it was one direction or the other. I didn't think one guy. I felt like the amount of animosity towards people having their opinion known on this is like, dude, you're splitting hairs. It's like picking between your 2 children. Like you love them both. You just love them differently in some cases, right? So I think this upcoming year, it's always tough to pick out. It always starts with quarterback. You look and see who's going to be quarterbacks at what places. Unfortunately, with where the game has gone, mostly going to be college football playoff contenders. So whoever the starting quarterback is at, say, Ohio State, whoever Arch Manning is going to be in the mix at Texas, that you might as well just book your plane ticket to New York next year because of the amount of hype and pomp and circumstance that will surround his candidacy. I think you can also look at some up-and-comers, some program elevators. Maybe Garrett Nussmeier is in it next year with the second year in the system. I wouldn't be that surprised if at Florida, DJ Lagway continues to accelerate and excel to a higher level. Lenoris Sellers, I think, will probably be in the mix if he can put 12 games together like he did down the stretch this past season. Whoever the starting quarterback is at USC might be in the mix early, but we'll see how long that lasts. And then as far as other positional players, feels like receivers getting a little more run, a little more love than it has in the past, partly because receivers have won it twice in the last 5 years, which is encouraging. But I still think that is the anomaly, not the norm. It's going to be a quarterback award 90% of the time and another position player, probably another 5 to 10% of the time.
There was one receiver that I had on my list if we were doing a Mac and Cube Heisman watch list, quote fingers. And you hit Nussmeier. I had him. I had Sellers. I had Lagway. I had Arch Manning. What about Nico Iamaleava?
See, here's the thing with Nico. I think people are enamored with him, but when you really dive in, the numbers are not that impressive. He's got 5 wins this year with less than 200 yards passing. His QBR is 70.5. You know what Joe Milton's was? 69.7. He's only half a point higher than Joe Milton was as a thrower. Doesn't mean he can't get better and doesn't mean he won't be better in 24 or in 25 than he was in 24. I just think the Heisman's a pretty big leap to go that far. Doesn't mean he can't do it. It just, he wouldn't be, if I were to rank candidacy in the SEC next year, he would probably be 7th if I were to guess right out of the gate.
Okay.
Let's just go through it. All right. Lagway, yes, above him. Sellers, yes, above him currently. Arch Manning above him currently, Nussmeier above him currently, right? We're good with those 4?
That's 4.
All right, that's 4 right now. I think the kid at Ole Miss is going to be a freak show. I'm just telling you, I think he's got a chance to be a complete star. Austin Simmons, star. So I would put him in front of him right now. That makes it 5. And then quarterback of Alabama or the quarterback of Georgia are both going to be in the mix as well. So
I would also have, one of the wide receivers I have would be Ryan Williams, that I think at least has a chance to be in the mix for that award next year. And then I had, if he comes back, Quintravious Wisner, because they use him out of the backfield a lot also. And
I don't think he'll get enough touches. That's the only problem. I think, remember, Baxter will be back next year.
Oh, yeah, no, it's totally feasible. He's not like the featured 30 touch a game guy, but he kind of became that a little bit late in the season. And with what he can do out of the backfield, might be able to help you some also.
That's accurate. But we'll see. I mean, I do think it's going to be fascinating when looking at the Heisman for next year. Like, Jeremiah Smith's going to be in the mix, but will he draw from whoever the quarterback is? Maybe it's Julian Sayin or whoever ends up being the guy at Ohio State next year. I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, Jeremiah Smith as a receiver, like, you got to have hype as a receiver. And you got to have some highlight reel plays. I mean, Travis Hunter won the award because he goes viral the most in many cases, right? I think that he has a lot of highlight reel moments that voters gravitate towards. And whether they should or shouldn't is up to you. I don't really care, but I do think that's something worth monitoring. What about defensive players? Anyone?
I've got 2 defensive players that I think will be in the mix for the Heisman Trophy.
Okay.
Dylan Stewart at South Carolina and Caleb Downs, safety at Ohio State.
See, did Caleb Downs' Heisman candidacy ever even get off the ground? And he had a punt return against Indiana.
He is going to be in the mix if he makes any plays, because people are just ready to put him there. And that's the main reason that I didn't make it. Well, he might not have as many people he's competing against next year. I don't know, but I think because of where he is from a media perspective, if he gets off to a good start, he'll put himself on that shelf and he'll probably stay there as long as he doesn't become a liability. And he makes a couple good plays across the course of the year and some bigger games, he's going to be in that mix. So that wasn't me saying that I think he is legitimately going to be that guy and deserve to be in New York because he made so many things happen. I just think the media is ready to place him there right now.
Fair. I don't have any problem with that. I just think the media is probably wrong on that. Doesn't mean he's not an elite player. I don't know if he'll ever be able to overshadow Jeremiah Smith or the quarterback. Okay. I don't think enough people know what to look for when they look at safeties. They're like, oh, he's an elite player. People say he's elite, so they just go with it. Doesn't mean he's not elite. It just means I'm not sure he'll ever be able to overcome the gap that he would have in name recognition to whatever the quarterback may be.
All right, what defensive players would you potentially have on this list?
None.
Oh, got it.
Dylan Stewart's about the only one. I do wonder what things are going to be like when he doesn't have Kyle Kennard on the other side. And a lot of the attention will be going to him. And I just don't know.
Okay.
Like, there's not a transcendent linebacker. I just think the awards change too much. We don't have people that watch the games voting. So if I knew full well that people watching the games were the ones that had votes, I'd feel good about a defensive player potentially having an opportunity. But I don't feel confident in that. And I'm not sure I'll ever feel confident in that, because I've talked to people that have Heisman votes that I know for a fact do not watch college football.
Okay. Damien, any that we left out? The only one that we didn't mention, G-Mac, that I would have thrown in would have been Rocco Becht. Can he put up enough numbers to be in that mix?
Could, but he's not going to have a big enough audience. Unfortunately, it's about eyeballs.
Yeah.
And Heisman moments and Heisman platforms. I don't know a game this year that Iowa State rated.
It's the way it has to be talked about. I mean, because unfortunately, that's the way it goes. Anybody we left out for you, Damien?
No running backs. No Dylan Sampson.
I said Quintravious Wisner. But,
Oh
okay.
yeah, well, yeah.
I don't
No
think
Dylan
Dylan
Sampson?
Sampson's coming back. So I don't. Yeah, I mean he's
Fair.
breaking
Zero
all
chance.
Tennessee records. I just don't know why he would do that to himself. But yeah, if he came back,
be
he's
crazy to
absolutely
come
on this
back.
list.
Is Oregon running back James? Is he coming back for another year?
LaMichael James?
No, is it Jordan James? Like LaMichael, yeah, he's a little up in age.
I don't think he's coming back. It's Jordan James.
Jordan James.
I mean, I would suspect that he's going to go. I don't have a lead on it either way. Specifically, if he wins a national title, you would think he'd probably go.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, Phil Knight money is probably beating NFL running back money right now.
At this point,
Just saying. I mean,
Yeah, it's worth the conversation.
You have to have the conversation about it. So, John, did we leave anybody off for you?
Did you mention Kevin Jennings?
No.
Because he's someone that, especially if they get a win or at least one, that he'll be on a lot of people's minds heading into the season. And given what he did, at least the back half of the season, won 9 straight or so.
Yeah.
He'll be on top of mind for a good bit. Another one potentially, depending on the quarterback that I don't know who it ends up being, but maybe Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. In theory, that offense could put up a lot of points. I don't know who will be.
No, I think the way Greg said quarterback at Alabama, quarterback at Georgia, you could probably say quarterback at Ohio State.
And yeah,
because all he's got to do is have a good year, and he's going to be in the mix for it at least.
So if not him, the receiver he'd be throwing to Jeremiah. I mean, he's the one back, as I assume Ibuka's going to the NFL. So yeah.
And if Jeremiah Love is healthy, I mean, I think easily that would be a running back that would have a chance to be in that mix as well from Notre Dame.
No Cam Coleman, since this is Auburn radio.
Not ready to put him there just yet.
Oh.
No?
Because that's Deuce's job, right?
Okay.
Deuce Knight.
So there we
go. Jackson Arnold? Not yet.
First ever split Heisman?
Not yet. Not gonna do that just yet. We're gonna wait and pause on that one. So
I don't know, honestly, when I think about it, I really don't know how many running backs are going to be able to get in the mix. I mean, think
tough.
How many teams have a true bell cow? Seriously. How many teams have a true bell cow back that gets enough touches to warrant consideration? Genty, obviously, right? Ran for 2,500 yards. I'm just going to tell you this. You're not running for 2,500 in the SEC or the Big Ten. So it ain't going to happen. All right. So help me understand this. How many teams in the SEC or the Big Ten on high platform, high volume, a lot of viewership are going to have enough touches to be in the mix? Probably not many.
Genty had 344 carries, Greg. The next closest Power 4 back was Amarian Hampton with 281.
Yeah.
And then you would get to Scatterbo. You get to Scatterbo at 263. Dylan Sampson, 256. Caleb Johnson at Iowa, 240. I mean, that's 100 less carries than Ashton Genty had. So to say that, and those were probably considered bell cow backs for those schools, but still not going to be able to even get the touches to get close to where Ashton Genty was.
And for instance, I think Dylan Sampson's as good a back as there is in the sport this past year. Would we all agree there?
No doubt.
Yeah.
All right. So answer me this. How was his candidacy?
And there wasn't one.
Exactly.
Non-existent.
So what makes you think there's going to be a running back that actually has one? If Dylan Sampson with 22 touchdowns and 1,500 yards can't do it, how many do you think can?
Yeah, and Caleb Johnson not far off from him, and not even a word spoken about him.
Nope.
And
Wanna know why?
Technically had better numbers than Dylan Sampson in a lot of ways, but not like you said, not a single word.
You know why though? But guess why? There's a lot of people that chatter about Jeremiah Love, and a lot of people that chatter about Cam Scatterbo. Why?
They were on teams that won.
No.
Highlight reels.
Highlight reels. Hurdling over people. How many times has Damian mentioned the reverse jumping spin move that Saquon's made?
He's getting a statue for it.
Twice.
Yeah. That's where we're at right now.
Twice an hour.
Like, people don't watch the games. Like they just watch one play and they remember one play, and that's what people go with. Jeremiah Love, an incredible back, amazing back. But if I were to ask 3/4 of the college football watching population, they would tell you about, oh man, what about when he hurdled that guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, that to me that's why Scatterbo moves the needle. And he's got a funny name and people remember him. You know what I mean? Like, he's memorable. So I think it's hard as a running back nowadays because they split the carries all over the place, and you got to have those highlight reel moments. And those highlight reel moments are a whole heck of a lot easier to make at wide receiver and quarterback than they are at running back.
Absolutely. Give you a lot.
No one wants to see a guy running through a brick wall and gaining 6 yards a pop and say, oh, yeah, he's great. No, they'll remember Derrick Henry stiff-arming a D end into the turf. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 100%. And I give you a ton of credit for saying everything that you could without actually saying it there. So about Scattaboo. But yes, it's all accurate. As we move on to our bad box score of the day in our next segment, if you're looking to move out of your house, Greg, who do you need to call?
That'd be